Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the United States of a Movie podcast. It's a Monday, sure, or actually, it's whatever day you're listening to this podcast on. But whatever day it is, it ends in Y, and now it's a fun day. Because we like to, on this podcast, get together and talk movies, but we have a mission here, because we are the podcast that is trying to find one movie to define each state in the United States. Guys, I do believe this is state 48, which is pretty bloody awesome. This is great as we close in on the finish line for season 1, where we will soon also be crowning our international, national, state world champion of greatest state in the world. That will then define him. Yeah, we're still trying to find that title.
Yeah.
Still trying to
We'll
find
get there.
it.
Yeah, we'll get there.
We'll get there 3 weeks after we do them. So
We'll come up with a really good one.
Yeah.
While I'm watching Oppenheimer. But of course, I don't take on this challenge by myself. My name is Ollie Pettigrew. I love movies. I used to host movie shows. Movies are my passion, and I found two guys who love movies just as much, if not more than me. So let's welcome them back to the show. First of all, the man, the myth, the legend. He's sitting right now in his own private video store in Los Angeles. He's probably the only guy that still rents movies from actual physical locations. Will Hirsch, welcome back to the show.
great to be here. Shout out Videotech. Just spoke with the manager last time I was there. That's where I rented today's movies. So
Nice.
they always come in clutch for me.
I am jealous that you have a place that you can go to that's quite local as well, it seems by the sound of it. You can like just pop down the video store and actually rent things. It's a part of my life that I do genuinely miss.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I do miss
And-
going like the Friday night, going to the Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, whatever, and browsing the same 10 movies every week and grabbing Oppenheimer again.
Well, it's, the thing I miss about video is because, you know, like
The tactile feel and the smell and
but
the
also
roar of the paint.
you saw those covers, like a DVD cover or a video cover was very much what would draw you into a movie. It had nothing to do with websites. It had nothing to do with trailers half the time. It's like, guys, do you feel like this one? Yeah, it sounds good.
It's the reason I designed these like alternate movie posters, because I'm just going to these video stores at a young age, before the age of like, you know, online trailers and stuff like that, and seeing like the horror section specifically. Like I remember, I think it was Basket Case was one that's like burned into my head. Just I remember these really vivid horror films. Never watched them, but I distinctly remember the cover art.
I remember a cover that scared me that I never watched it, and it turned out like I watched it many years later. But it's The Frighteners.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Which was like, it was just the face
Reaching
coming
through,
out of
right?
the wall thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, no, fuck that. I'm never watching that movie ever. And then you watch it, oh, it's a Peter Jackson, it's a Michael J. Fox
Yeah.
movie. But that
Yeah.
cover, I never even picked up the video. I was too scared. No.
Yeah.
I would totally grab the Blu-ray right now, but the Blu-ray cover is really bad. It's Michael J. Fox. It's one of those Photoshop where it's somebody
I know
threw
the
it
one
together.
you're talking about. I know the cover. I think I have
It sucks.
as
The
well.
cover you're talking about rules.
Yeah,
But yeah.
it was
This
brilliant. But still scared me off. Of course, we also have to, we've already heard his voice. We've heard his amazing dulcet tones. Let's welcome him back to the show. He's our resident poster designer, graphic designer, generally legend when it comes to this stuff. Ryan Sander, welcome back.
Oh man, it's great to be here. I'm so happy to talk about these three films that we air quotes, these movies that we picked. One of them we really didn't want to pick, but I think for us being able to talk about it, I think it's a solid effort.
Yeah, it's almost like, guys, we've done that sort of thing again where we've accidentally become a movie podcast because not only did like one of these movies now has just celebrated its 20th anniversary. So
Crazy.
all of these articles were popping up this week. And I was like, guys, this is a weird coincidence, but
It
we've
really
done
is.
it again.
yeah.
But then also that with two of our movies are kind of like two sides of the same coin. We've got two very independently produced, very Idaho produced and set movies that I'm like, okay, but they are so wildly different at the same time. So as you may have figured out from my little clue just there, the state that we are going to this week is the state of Idaho. And much like Ryan is saying that when we say Idaho, one movie just immediately lands and everyone's like, oh, you're going to do that movie.
Yeah.
And that movie, of course, is Napoleon Dynamite. A movie I do own. but I haven't watched for a very long time. And I was interested to see just how resistant both of you were to just even the idea of watching this movie. I do believe one of you suggested, hey, should we just not watch the movie and see how much we can remember?
Yeah, that was definitely me. And then against my better judgment, I was like, nah, I should probably watch it. So I also haven't seen it in a very long time. I still own it on DVD, not Blu-ray, DVD, original DVD. And yeah, it was interesting to revisit this one because, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but just I don't remember like all I remember is the stranglehold this movie had on us as a culture for that
Yep.
time. It's crazy.
Mhm.
And when
Yeah,
we
that's-
mentioned this, like deciding the movies, Will and I both like bemoaned the idea of talking about this this film. And he's still doing it.
Yeah,
I-
yeah, go Will.
This was, yeah, I don't think I've seen it. I didn't see it in theaters. I definitely saw it when I worked at Hollywood Videos. So it's been close to 20 years since I've seen this movie.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And I thought it was okay back then. I was like, it's funny. I got a few chuckles. 20 years layer, I need to find Mount Doom and just chuck this movie into it. I just I'm gonna try to be nice, but yeah, not
Well, just be honest. Be honest. That's fine. You don't have
okay.
to.
This was a waste of my time. This
Our
was a
listeners
waste
don't
of,
our listeners don't come here for nice.
Yeah.
They come here to tell us how wrong we are.
I just, because I've been on the filmmaking side, I know how hard it is to make a good movie. And clearly this connected with a lot of people. I don't know you could make this movie today and it would catch fire. It hit at exactly the right time.
Okay, there you go. That's actually what I wanted to get in and talk about, was exactly that. Because yes, I know exactly what you mean. If you make this movie today, it's on YouTube. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like, I get it. But what I mean is, you're so right. That movie came out 20 years ago and it was so sort of just weird and
Yeah.
tiny and just like, you know, you use air quotes, but original. But what I mean is, like, we were given, like, when it came out, where are we? When it came out, what year was Napoleon Dynamite?
2004, the year I graduated high school. Same year as
2004.
Euro Trip. Much
Right.
better movie.
Yeah.
So it was just so. I mean, the thing is, like John Hader as Napoleon. It's just such a weird movie. It's like,
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
it's set 2004. It feels like it's in the 1980s because I guess, you know, Idaho is just that sort of behind. It's such a little movie that just is so bizarre that, yeah, I think you're so right that it came out that goes, oh, it's such a quirky movie. Whereas now it's not quirky.
It's a Wes Anderson movie for people who've never seen a Wes Anderson movie.
Yes.
You know, it's like, even from the opening, like I hadn't seen it in forever, but I knew, like, you know, as I'm sure most people know this movie by heart. It's so endlessly quotable, you know, whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but I remembered all the lines. Like I will say, for as unfunny as I found this as a rewatch, when he says your mom goes to college, it still triggered that like visceral reaction to me that I audibly like. The redeeming quality of his brother as the character is, there's something, it's still a very charming movie.
Yeah.
Even if you hate it, like it's quirky and fun, and it's an interesting rewatch.
Yeah, I mean, it moves along. Like I laughed a couple of times. I'm just going, oh yeah, and then kind of like you're saying, Ryan, is all of those like lines that I remember people just quoting endlessly. Everybody was doing Napoleon Dynamite. I mean, even just like, you know, Mrs. and I still do it. Like anytime someone's posing for a photo, we'll do the whole like, maybe just bring your hand. Yeah. Oh yeah, this is working. You know, just that kind of thing. It's just become so much a part of the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
That it was kind of interesting. So, but like, yeah. So I'm still Will. Like, you've just like no redeeming factors like whatsoever. I'm fascinated.
Yeah, there was just nothing about it on the rewatch. And like I said, I had memories of thinking like, it was funny. It was just, you know, compared to other stuff that was coming around at the time, it was just kind of like, yeah, this also exists. And I think what annoyed me at the time was like just how much like we were talking about those Vote for Pedro t-shirts.
Yeah.
Were everywhere. Every unfunny person you knew wore that. And
unironically,
they were, it was just, I don't know. So I think there was also just how much it took over for like how unfunny I found it, where it kind of irritated me. And then rewatching it now, I'm like, this just doesn't have anything. Like, I don't know. I
counterpoint to that, humor aside, it's an incredible looking film. Like the way
Mhm.
it's shot, the way the color grading on it, it's a great looking film. And I think at that time, nothing else in this genre really looked like that. Like
Mhm.
Mhm.
aside from, let's say, a Wes Anderson film.
Yeah,
You
see,
know,
it's Wes Anderson, but they're not using right angles.
it's less Anderson.
Right.
Less.
Yes. Yes.
Son of a bitch.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if you compare this to something like Bottle Rocket, which is a much better movie,
Sure. Oh yeah.
I think the biggest difference is like, well, kind of like the pacing and sort of the line deliveries are similar. There's an actual story in Bottle Rocket, and it's actually moving towards something. And I think if this movie had like a little more of a driving force behind the plot, maybe that would spark something. But
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, because I finished watching the movie and I sent you guys, ooh, the plot of Napoleon Dynamite, and I sent a GIF from Seinfeld where it's just George going, nothing.
Yeah.
Like this, like Ryan, you like to say the stakes couldn't be any lower. There were no stakes.
No, there were a lot of stakes. Remember, Uncle Rico throws one at
Always.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
He did.
stakes in this movie, but not the way you think. Yeah.
Very, very
Plainest-
sloppy stakes.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
plainest looking fucking steaks, man. Like just
Yeah.
they were awful. But things like it launched John Hader for a while, and then eventually he just sort of like stopped. But the thing is, it's just like it's almost like he was just made for this character. This character and he were meant to be,
Mhm.
and he is very funny as Napoleon Dynamite. But I'm
It's an
not sure
iconic
he ever really
character,
worked elsewhere.
No.
You know
Right.
what I
His
mean?
his run after this was pretty lackluster, except for maybe Blades of Glory, which I do love.
He is
But
so good in Blades
yeah,
of Glory.
but anything else, I just really don't remember. Like it was always a very Napoleon Dynamite adjacent character. Like he couldn't escape. This character was so big that he just couldn't escape the shadow of it. Much like, Aaron Paul's Jesse Pinkman. Like everything he did after Breaking Bad just couldn't stack up to how iconic that character was.
Yeah. And I mean, so much so that they did a Napoleon Dynamite animated series. Like
Yeah.
and the fact that you're like, did they, shows you how successful that was. And
Yeah.
again, how this thing is just such a moment in time. You can't do it, again these days,
I mean, it's God. The more you think about it, you're hitting the nail on the head about it. Of just like it. If you weren't there, I'm not sure if the movie would work for you.
No.
Like if you've never heard of Napoleon Dynamite and you put this movie on now, I wonder what my kids would think about it. You know what I mean? If I put it on, I'd be like, all right, this doing anything for you? I don't know.
They would need to watch it in like minute increments on TikTok. It's probably the only way people would discover this movie, like.
And it's funny because Jared Hess's other movies, I don't think they're amazingly funny. Like his sense of humor and mine don't 100% line up. But there are movies like Nacho Libre and Gentlemen Broncos where I'm like, there's actually good stuff in both of those. Like I can appreciate those. There's funny moments. This, I think it was, I don't know. It was just, maybe it was too low budget, and it was just,
Well,
who knows?
In this case, well, it's very much based off so it's written and directed by Jared Hess. It's also written by I think one of his siblings as well, and sort of based off a short film that he did with Hader when they were in school or when they were younger, kind of thing. And it's like, I think the reason that Napoleon Dynamite compared to his other movies is like it's got its certain thing is because it's very sort of like quasi biographical. He's talking about things that actually happened, like the cow being shot in front of the school bus, little things like that. He goes, no, those things actually happen, kind of thing, which is why I think that in the same way that John Hader did the short version, like because originally people were saying, hey, maybe get Jake Gyllenhaal, and it's like, no, it's this guy, and this is the guy that gets it. So
I couldn't imagine this movie with anyone else but John Hader.
Yeah,
right.
And I just feel like. It's also like it feels like everyone else in the movie feels like they were just like we've watched other movies like it where you go, did they just get everybody from that town to be in this
For
movie?
sure, it feels like that. Yeah,
but it works in a weird way, like the bullies or just the random way he's just shoved into a locker for no reason, like during a shot, or like everyone's always in a headlock and stuff like that. It was just...
like we said in Indiana, how when we were watching History of Violence, everyone had like Cronenberg face. This kind of has like everyone perfectly fits within the reality of this movie.
Mhm.
You know, no one feels like an actor. They even like John Grease, who plays Uncle Rico, famously from Real Genius, the guy in the closet, and also on season 2 of White Lotus.
I'm
But
amazed
like,
that Lost as well. Will hasn't mentioned Lost.
I was waiting for my opportunity to bring up
please.
Lost.
But everyone just feels like they're in this. It feels very grounded and real in this bizarre Idahoan kind of setting. You know, it just fits.
Mhm.
It does fit. It's like, I don't know. I mean, I disagree with Will. I wouldn't throw it into Mount Doom. You know, I don't think it's like a bad movie. And
I mean, it's
think,
no Son-in-Law, but you know.
Yeah. See, yeah, Son-in-Law. Yeah, I found like almost no redeeming.
You shut your mouth.
Like...
You shut your fucking mouth.
But you know, at the same time, like
it was the movie of a generation, and
yeah,
that generation kind of sucks. And I say that as someone from that generation.
I was like, wait a minute, this is the year I graduated high school. This is my generation.
Yeah. But it's like it was.
Will can't even eat tater tots without having a.
I have flashbacks, like Apocalypse Now style flashbacks.
Yeah, but no, for real though. Every time, like if I'm having tots, I'm always thinking Napoleon Dynamite. You know what I mean? It's just like, I just like what they just, you know what, they swung for the fences, and I agree with what you're saying as well, Ryan, about there's actually been quite a good looking film at times. Like for example, where Uncle Rico lives with that.
It's the wide shots,
the grasslands in the background, or just like random shots of like when Napoleon's just running across Idaho. So it was shot in Preston, Idaho, I believe. And so it definitely kind of like gives you that vibe, that feel. Like, you know, we're always talking, especially with this podcast, it's like you're trying to sort of feel like what a state is. And it does, you know, like you've got almost the Edgar Wrighty and Hot Fuzz kind of like farmer character. The guy that speaks, but you can't understand a fucking word he's saying.
There's a bit in this too where and if you're from Idaho, please help me out here. When he's, first of all, it's a really amazing tracking shot when he's working on the chicken farm, right? And it pulls through like the thing, and this hallway just goes on forever. But then after they're feeding them lunch, and the guy is just eating raw, unpasteurized, like drinking raw, unpasteurized eggs.
Yeah,
what the
I love
fuck,
that
man?
That's the bit that cracked me up. Like he cracks it in, and I just couldn't help but laugh. Is the bit where John Hader sort of like takes a sip of it, and it's just him gagging, and I was just like, it just cracked me up.
It's so gross. Like that always like irked me out. That one scene, and then they're just eating like bread sandwiches. I don't know.
It looks like they're making egg salad sandwiches.
Yeah, because there's hard-boiled eggs,
and an
obviously.
egg.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, and then he does it and goes,
but the raw egg,
like $1 an hour.
Yeah. See, it's still a very, very quotable film, for better or worse, you know.
Well, John Hader's got like an interesting mouth, that's never closed.
Yeah.
You know, so because he's got his like teeth, I guess, sort of like a bit more sort of like Freddie Mercury.
He looks like the chicken lady from The Kids in the Hall. If you remember, get that reference, you know, like there's just something very bird-like about this character.
Yes. Yeah,
that makes sense. I was gonna say he looks like the real life Butthead from Beavis and Butthead. Like he's got that same exact face.
Sure,
he does, and he's kind of a mouth breather. You know, he's just kind of got that expression, but he's just got these. I'm not gonna lie, they give him some good lines. That's like, it's like when he's drawn that picture of Trish, I think her name is.
Yeah.
And like, so the mum makes her call, you are gonna take that boy to the dance. And he's like, yeah, it's okay, just do like the shading on your lip. It might be the greatest picture I've ever drawn in my life.
Her reaction to seeing that drawing is just the sheer horror, as if a serial killer sent you like a drawing of yourself.
She's like on the phone, like she's got a gun to her head, kind of thing. It's just one of those. Yeah. That's what I mean. Is that he has very quotable lines that he delivers as no one else has ever delivered a line. And I think that's what makes Napoleon Dynamite as a character, as much as it might annoy you, Will, but like, he has survived as a character, as someone that can dress up as, and people can do impressions. God, you know, just do it.
Yeah.
Speak like Napoleon.
You can get sexy Napoleon Dynamite characters at Spirit Halloween.
And who's to say I haven't? But yeah, I think, you know, it is extremely quotable. It's just a character. This is one of those things just culturally where I'm like, All right, I'm gonna have to. Everyone else is on board. It's one of those things I just doesn't click with me.
That's
I
fair.
do agree it's perfectly cast. Like I wouldn't
Yeah.
change anybody cast it. It's very competently made. It's not like it's Jared Hess can't make a film. It's just I think when I think of like other high school movies, there's just so many other options where I'm
Mhm.
like, you nail it, and it's like really funny. Even movies about like weird kids and stuff, where I'm like, that this nails it, this nails it, and this one I'm like, they just don't seem like people. They just
Let
don't.
me
This doesn't seem real.
Yeah,
And
let me name a
for sure.
movie from around a similar time that does the job of being an actual high school movie and nailing it is Easy A. You know,
right,
see the
Yeah.
movie Easy, Will Gluck's Easy A, the one that launched Emma Stone, and that movie is quirky and funny and ridiculous, but also real, like with real people, and has actual stakes and there's sort of things
Mhm.
going on and relationships, and it's like you said that kind of like the Napoleon Dynamite of it all is just like
It's
it's
a heightened
almost
reality, right?
yeah, exactly. We're
Mhm.
looking, it's just a slightly off universe.
And maybe that's just to us as non-Idaho
Idahoans?
people.
Yeah.
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 You know, another movie, it reminded me of another movie which I absolutely love is The Foot Fist Way with Danny McBride. It's a
Yes.
very similar indie
I
small town kind of feel, but much
I had the
better
exact same thought
film.
because of the scene at the dojo. You
Oh yeah,
know,
for
when
sure.
they go to the
Mhm.
guy, you know, the dude
Forget
from
about
he
it.
used to be on
Yeah.
the TV show, I can't remember. But it's
Oh
like
Diedrich Bader. I
yeah.
yeah.
actually I do. That is the one part that got me to chuckle is where he's like, put your hand on my arm or on my
Other
right
arm.
Other arm.
No,
other
my
arm.
other
No,
arm.
my other arm.
Yeah.
That did crack me up.
Yeah. You think I go home to Starla every whatever
Yeah.
that line is, and it
Yeah.
just cuts to this bodybuilder one, like it's great.
Yeah.
That the payoff of that later on in the film is
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah, just when he comes in, he goes, does that whole
yeah.
fist bump thing. Like,
It's
say,
wearing the same outfit.
yeah,
Yeah.
always,
Yeah.
always wearing the same outfit.
That is good. Yeah.
But like, you know, in the same way that, so, I mean, like, think of some of these, of every ancillary character is just a little heightened, a little off.
Mhm.
You know,
Oh
like
yeah.
Kip, the brother. You're just jealous because I've been online talking to hot babes all day.
Yeah.
You know, like just
Maybe
every
my
time
favorite character in this movie
he's
on the rewatch
great.
for sure.
I mean, I
Mhm.
love that. I always like that because you know he's online talking online, and he's just he
Peace
loves his
out.
kid. Yeah, and it's just so cool. And then when LaFonda turns up, and
LaFonda, yeah.
like, and the look on her face, like she is gonna eat him up, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
good for you, Kip.
There
Like,
the one thing I didn't, it's so funny I didn't clock, and maybe this was a weird editing, like when he's working for the talent show and he gets Dequan's dance moves and the guy says, "Are you ready to groove?" And he just goes, "Yes." Great, love that. And but she hands him a cassette tape and she's like, "My brother mixed this or made, like, it's my brother." She alludes to the fact that her brother made this song in my mind, right? And then later on when he goes to perform, he's playing to Jamiroquai's Canned Heat, and I'm like, is her brother Jamiroquai?
dude, I took
Holy
it as he made the
shit.
mixtape, you donut.
I get it now. But I'm wondering if that was like a track that they weren't sure what song they were going to do that dance to, and it was just they dropped
Mhm.
Well,
in Jamiroquai. Like,
I did read.
I
I
don't know.
did read that Jared has had him improvise to three different songs. So they played three different songs. They had him, and then they just took all the best dance moves, and then in the end put it to Canned Heat
Can't
kind of
see.
thing.
Yeah, it's an odd choice for a song for this
Yeah,
film.
it is, and you know, but it's so weird. It works.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the only part of that movie where you go, okay, it's not the 1980s. I mean, granted, there are a couple of context clues if you look really closely at his ID and stuff. Like I
yeah.
said, it's the 2004, 2005. But then you've got, you know, side ponytails, and you've got just like no one's got a cell phone. It feels
It's from an area where time kind of stalled
stopped.
out.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah,
I think that's something I clock sometimes when I watch movies about high schoolers, and it's modern day, but I can tell the director is much older
Hmm.
because of things like that. Nobody has cell phones. Everybody's like, hey, where is somebody? Nobody thinks to call anybody. There's little
yeah.
things like that where I'm like
Yeah,
the
I know
side
exactly.
ponytail where I'm like,
You're
now,
like, yeah, this
and
script took 10 years to make because
Yeah.
it's
I think because like a couple years after I graduated high school, I worked at a high school for a long time. That like I can just kind of see the matrix a little bit better where I'm just
Mhm.
like, oh, you haven't seen like high school or know what's going on in a long time.
yeah.
And it's like, because I maintain to this day the best movie TV show that anybody's ever made about high school is American Vandal. I think
Yeah.
that 100% nailed what it's like.
I thought you were
I'm
gonna say
like that.
Freaks and Geeks, but yeah, that's great.
Freaks and Geeks is also great. That's something that kind of tries something similar where you're following the weird kids.
Mhm.
And I think that show pretty much nails it. Like I'm like it's just
American Vandal, Netflix. Okay.
the first
This
Um,
season. First season,
this
Shamefully canceled.
it's a
Ugh.
yeah,
mockumentary. Oh, it's
yeah,
that guy, Dylan Maxwell.
But they're trying
yeah,
to find
yeah.
out who
He's
drew the.
fantastic.
You know, he's great. He drew all the dicks on the car, right? That's the
Yeah,
whole thing.
Oh, that's
it
the the
that
plain
is
view
the
red herring.
best. Yeah, yes, exactly. He's amazing in the
He's
show. He's
great.
like on another level.
Mhm.
But it's so I have like a bar that I compare high school stuff to, and this one I'm just like I feel like, and maybe this wasn't a conscious choice. He just is like, well, this was my experience. I'm going to make it nowadays because we can't
Yeah.
afford to do a period piece. But you
It
know,
kind of works for the benefit of the film, though. I keep thinking, like, if there was a title card that said Idaho 1985 or something like that, I don't think it would have
mhm,
added anything. Like, I like the
mhm.
ambiguity of not knowing what time period it takes place in because it doesn't really matter. I
It's
think it adds
yeah,
to the
It
and it just
doesn't.
authenticity of it.
it
Yeah.
adds to the weirdness of it
Yeah.
all, you
Yeah.
know. And
Mhm,
it's like because it is very sort of like rural. They do get
Yeah.
into that, you know, when you get the sort of like the FFA stuff and
mhm,
you know, with just like the pigs and like you're saying the chickens and you know the trying of the milk and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, if you are that sort of farming community and you are in the middle of like, you know, America is a big place, you know. There are times when I'm
mhm,
flying in America, I'm just looking out the window going, you know, there's a lot of nothing in
Mhm.
America.
mhm.
And then you always see like a house that is like the only
Yeah.
house for 30 miles and you're like, who the fuck lives there? You
Yeah.
know, that's
Yeah.
always going through
Right.
my head. And
Right.
I kind of feel like this community is kind of like they maybe are getting broadband in a couple of years. You know what I mean? And it's
Mhm,
like they've got 56K. I mean, because you've got Rico and he's still using like a video camera to
Yeah.
make his football videos. You know what I mean? But then you've
mhm,
got you know Kip's on
Kip
his
on
chat
the.
room.
Yeah.
You know things, and then you've got Jamiroquai. So all these little moments, are like okay, so they exist, but they're still like it's like failure to launch. It's like this town hasn't actually done it yet. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, but you know,
mhm.
my cousin that out town down the road, they've got, you know, they've got streaming now.
Yeah. He's still watching movies gotten at a like at a Goodwill VHS
Yeah,
thing. You
people they've
know.
got a
Mhm.
top loader. They're
Yeah.
listening to
Yeah.
cassette
Yeah.
tapes. You
They
know,
think
like
time travel can exist. It's
yeah.
like,
I'm
The-
sorry.
sure. Yeah.
I had totally forgotten about that time machine, and then I'm sorry, but like that scene as well, where he's just turn it off, turn,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, I'm sorry, I was laughing.
Did you forget to put the crystals in?
Yeah,
It's great. It's just
that bit's funny.
it is like I don't know what it is. This movie is unfortunately like lightning in a bottle. Like it was untouchable for so long, and I agree with you, Will. I think the culture that this movie spawned is kind of unfortunate, but I c- I still see the charm and the humor and like the effect this movie had on people for like I just keep saying for better or worse.
Mhm.
You know,
I think for
it's
me
what
it's
put
just one
Hot
of those
Topic on the
movies.
map.
Yeah. No kidding. I honestly I think this movie for me it just needed a little bit more focus and it needed somebody else to come in and kind of tighten everything up. And I think that this could have worked. I don't know. It's one of those movies that's just I was just disengaged the entire
Well,
time.
it's
Yeah,
kind of like going back to what we were saying is it's the question of like what's the point? You know, so
right.
when I'm talking
Mm.
Easy A, right, we've got the stakes of there's this rumor going around, and she's started this
The
rumor that she
Scarlet
lost her
Letter, right?
virginity, and
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, the Scarlet Letter, exactly. Whereas, like, when it comes to Napoleon Dynamite, halfway through the movie, at the 45-minute mark, we've got a prom, which would usually be the build up to the point, but it just kind of happens.
Yeah.
And then the next one we get, so we've done that. Okay, we let it go by, and it's like 10 things that I hate about you, or any of the other ones. Okay, fine. But then they're also doing the class president thing, like election. But
Mhm.
even then, it's just kind of a background thing.
They're
It's
all
just
vignette. They're all like little
yeah,
vignettes.
yeah.
You know?
It's like okay,
Yeah.
that's so that we can have Pedro. Oh,
Yeah.
and then because I do like the bit, even though I find his deliveries it's so bizarre, but I think it works in a way. But it's the
Yeah.
bit where he sees Hillary Duff's sister is now running for president. He's like, is he hiding here? Like, you're
Yeah.
not feeling like it's like really hard. And then it does that whole bit about him shaving his head.
Yeah.
But
And
it's
then,
like I said,
but in
it's
order to get the
heightened.
wig, yeah.
Yeah, and
Right.
so we get the wig, and we get Deb going, this is like matching your color and stuff. Like, so it's weird and it's funny, but like Will's saying is, what's the point? There's no
Yeah.
growth, really. The only growth is Kip ends up with LaFwanda and leaves.
He gets
Rico
culturally
ends up
appropriated.
with someone
Right.
maybe, and Napoleon
Yeah.
is just Napoleon. Like, just with Deb, he's just
Is
playing.
it implied that Uncle Rico is having sex with all of these women he's trying to sell Tupperware to?
Not sure. I was wondering the same. I was watching it again through that because he was like, "Don't disturb me," and then
Yeah.
Napoleon goes to bang on the door and they don't answer. So I'm
Yeah.
like, "Is Rico fucking that grandma?" Probably.
I think it's more likely that that is his goal, but he's just coming across as just super sweet and nice to like these ladies, and they're just like, oh, it's just nice to spend. I don't think he's
Yeah.
sealing the deal.
I do
I
another.
just,
Yeah.
and that's
Okay.
funnier to
That's
me
yeah.
that he's
I agree.
not.
I agree.
He is.
Um.
I like his character. It's a sad. Like it's just the right amount. Like he at least has an actual thing, which is
Yeah.
just
Right.
he just can't let go. When coach had put me.
Anytime I'm holding a football, I used to say, like back in '82, I could throw a pigskin a quarter mile. Like it's just like
Yeah.
like,
How much
he
you
is
want to
so
bet I can
good.
throw
at this.
through these mountains? Yeah.
Oh man, he's great. I love the bit when he's trying to sell the Tupperware to the couple, and he brings out the ship, and the woman just looks over and goes, "Oh,
I want that.
I still say like there are lines from this movie that I still say to this day.
Mhm.
Like
You know?
yeah, and then the bit I was cracking up. I'm gonna give credit to the actresses.
Oh
Like,
my god,
where
he's
where
trying
he
to
goes,
break the
you look
Tupperware.
like a strong pup. Why don't you try and tear this?
The
And so he's like,
look
the
of
guy's like trying to do it.
disappointment. Oh
Yeah, it's all on her face. It's just she looks at him and then she feels like emasculate him. She emasculates him and then she's almost like, "I'm done with you." You know?
yeah,
With-
I'm gonna fuck him.
exactly.
That's
I'm gonna
why I'm
cuck you
wondering, like,
right now with this guy
yeah,
because you
yeah.
can't tear that in half. And I'm like, that's what I mean. Is that they were little
The
bits
way
that
he
just, like,
struggles with it, like yeah, it's
yeah.
like a movie. It's like, almost like a Christopher Guest movie. Like everyone had, they're all like
Ooh.
unknown character actors. You know, like
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
I wouldn't obviously put it on that level, but it has that kind of independent, rough feeling to it. You know,
hmm
without being like a
Yeah.
mockumentary. I will say, I think I mentioned on our text thread, it would be hilarious if someone recut this like as a horror film,
Yes.
because there are elements of it that are so just bizarre. If you change the music on it
It's about
or
to just put some of that
you cut it
you know,
differently, like very Texas
violin.
Chainsaw. Yeah.
I mean,
Better
if
movie.
if you like edit that scene where she opens up the letter and it's the self-portrait, if you just don't show what she's looking at and just have her reactions,
Yeah.
it's a total horror movie. It's
Yeah.
like, what did he send her?
Guys, I'm reading something. Did you see the post-credit scene?
Dude, this is probably the first time I remember actually seeing it, the wedding.
I had
I saw directed by, turned it off.
I have-
I was so done.
I forgot there was a post-credit scene until rewatching it again.
There is a
Like I don't remember this at all. Yeah.
scene
The wedding.
that I'm
right?
immediately looking up on YouTube right now. So
Oh, you
Sam
haven't
Jackson
seen-
recruits
You didn't-
Napoleon.
He blows everyone up with dynamite.
Oh, that's why it's called that.
Napoleon Dynamite
We'll return in
post credits.
We'll return in the bench warmers.
Wow, there is a 5.5 minute like post credits.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna have to watch that later.
Yeah.
5.5 minutes
the
more
video-
of this movie.
It's Kip and LaFonda's wedding, and
Yeah.
Napoleon like rides in on a horse.
What? It's a minute long. Okay.
Yeah.
Kip's wedding
Okay.
song to the fun. Oh, we're gonna have to watch it. So I had until today, no idea, that even existed. That's insane. Like
I completely forgot about it. Yeah.
I've never heard anyone talk about it. To be honest, it's one of the man. And then like Nick Fury comes out at the end.
Yeah.
And he's like,
It's just
Look at-
yeah.
Will is like, I don't give a shit. I'm never watching that in my life.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me there's more of this movie? Click off. Yeah. Just-
But there is
Oh.
like other things that I enjoyed about this movie is Haley Duff's boyfriend, so Summer's boyfriend. Summer, by the way, just perfect name for this character. But like
Summer
the,
Wheatley.
the white guy with the blonde hair who's always
God.
just kind of doing, you know, in the same way that what's his face from Dazed and Confused always touches his nose acting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This guy's entire thing is he does the eyebrow thing, and he's just always going. well, you know, like, what is he trying?
Yeah.
And I love it because he's like,
Yeah.
even when they cut to the audience during like the performance,
Oh
where
yeah,
they-
God.
and like everyone is just sitting there, like, and he's just there going, oh yeah, right, you know, it's just they make choices and they stick to them.
Yeah,
And,
it's
you know,
just it's endlessly weird. Like everything about it.
Mhm.
Like even when Summer Wheatley, they're doing their choreographed dance to, was it not Time After Time? That's at the prom. I forget what song it was, but they're like barefoot and it's just so it's weird. You get the Happy Hands Club doing that. It's
It,
just
isn't it
bizarre.
Forever Young at the prom? And it's
forever young,
time after
maybe.
time. And
No.
Yeah, it's I forget. But
I
it's
mean,
great.
look, I was
the
so
great soundtrack
disengaged.
though.
You could be
Great
right.
soundtrack. Yeah, I don't remember. But
Well, then they
it's
also
no,
like the rest of the soundtrack is just like, you know, almost like a MIDI track from a,
yeah.
and then you've got this like the little organy
Yeah.
thing playing, which goes again, just like
I did
sets
love
the
the
tone.
I did love the opening credit sequence with the White Stripes song. I thought that was great. The way
Mhm.
they did that was kind of cool.
Well, the thing
Mhm.
is, and I was like,
It's no hard ticket to Hawaii, but
right. But when we get with like, you know, when we talk about sort of deliberate choices, it starts from that opening credits, which is where, you know, they're using dishes that turn up throughout the
Mhm.
show, you know, that people are eating, and they've done it. And I was watching, going, I was wondering if when they shot it, because you've got things
Yeah.
like Fox Searchlight and Universal Pictures written on plates,
Mhm.
and I'm like, well, they wouldn't have got distribution until they'd been to the
Yeah.
Sundance Film Festival. So I was like, just that random thought in my
Sure.
head of going,
Yeah, yeah.
did you
Yeah, it's
reshoot
definitely
this?
something they shot
Clever
like
though.
later.
Clever.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's what I mean. Is the movie
Mhm.
starts with a deliberate choice. Like
Mhm.
instead of it just being cheap credits, it's like, no, this is it, and this is the kind of movie you're
Yeah.
watching. And I'm like, it to me it is a fully realized idea, whether or not you think it's a good idea or not, whether you not, you know, whether if you
Mhm.
think it's a good movie or not. That I think this movie, they make choices, the end. You know, and
Yeah.
I think that's why it works. That's why it's a cult movie. It's why it's stuck around for 20 years. Is that at least it knows what it wants to do, even if you don't know why they want to do it.
Yeah. It's got a little
Yeah.
bit of like other film influences too. It feels like because there are so many like ABC plots going on, kind of like a Dazed and Confused. Like it's, you know, you follow Rico and Kip and their journey to sell Tupperware, their job. You have Napoleon, you have my favorite side characters are Pedro's cousins.
Yeah,
They're
Mhm.
his muscle.
the
That was
protection.
great. Yeah, there's just like I love all of that. These little pocketed stories. It's almost like a bunch of different short films, or this was made as like the intention of being a series, just kind of pushed
Yeah,
together into a
that's a
film.
great way of putting it. It's like
Yeah. It
you gave everyone their series arc just in one movie, and it
Yeah.
just kind of happens. I mean, I love Deb.
Yeah.
I didn't realize until like, you know, I was prepping for this episode, but it was like she's the kid from Waterworld.
Mhm.
I was like, there was something about her face. I'm looking like there's
Mhm.
something about this kid that I know,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh my god, it's Waterworld kid. Like, good for you. But like I don't know. So I'm not. So that's what I'm saying.
What was
I'm
the plot of this movie again?
yeah, well, that's what I mean. And you brought up Dazed and Confused, and that's a movie with no plot
Yeah.
either. But you still have growth. You know, characters go through things and
Yeah.
like, you know, challenges and everything else, and you know they end up gonna go watch Aerosmith. Great, but like, I just feel like this movie is weird, but
Mhm.
I don't think it's a bad movie. Will I think
No.
it's a good movie? I think I'm interested. Like I said, I'm not sure a random kid from today, like my kids, if I put this on, I don't know whether they'd like it or not.
I can understand your disdain for it. I totally get that, and it's perfectly warranted.
And
But I never like leaned into that. Like
Mhm.
it never dissuaded me from enjoying this film. Again, I haven't watched it in 20 plus years probably, but I definitely don't dislike it. But I think everyone's probably if you haven't seen this movie by now, I mean, it's a tough recommend, but I feel like
This is random. Okay, so the movie features one of the longest credited cast lists in the history of film because all
in the
181 student extras get listed in the credits.
oh man, wow. It's a weird Guinness record to hold on to.
Shot in 22 days. Not bad.
What was the budget? The budget was like 400,000. It made like what, 40 4 million.
Yes,
Wild.
46 $400,000 budget, which is actually honestly more than
I don't remember this in theaters. Like I don't know if I don't think it was in theater. You did?
It
Okay.
was in theaters. There was buzz about it.
Oh.
It was the Sundance thing. People had seen it at Sundance and people were talking about it, and it was a bit quirky and it had that funny poster, and there was a lot of like chat about it. It was very much a word of mouth one, like, oh my god, it's this movie, it's fucking weird. It was that kind of movie. But yeah, it made 46 million. 46 mil.
Eggs?
46 million eggs.
That one egg is 44 million eggs?
It's that that's the kind of profit like versus budget that the people who do like the famous Hollywood accounting, they can't hide that this movie made money. Like there's a few movies, because if you ask every studio in Hollywood, every movie has lost money. You know, it's kind of one of those, that's just how it works, you know. I think the people who made Spinal Tap,
the Return
like,
of the King.
yeah, one of the stars of Spinal Tap, Christopher Guest, was actually, I think, said like, yeah, I've never made any like money from Spinal Tap. The studio tells me it's never made any money, despite all the re-releases, theatrical celebrations, and yeah, but it's never made any money. Anyway, this is the kind of like budget so small, profit so huge.
Yeah.
That you can't hide it. This is like one of the most successful indie movies like ever made.
Like
It's either a movie that makes $1 billion or it bombs terribly. You know,
well, John Hader was paid $1,000 to play Napoleon Dynamite.
Worth every penny.
They
paid him in tater tots?
Yeah.
It was edited in producer Jeremy Coon's apartment using a $6,000 Macintosh with Final Cut Pro. It's just, you know, it's just,
man,
it's cool. I mean, the thing is, like, it's good.
It's a charming film. I mean, I have no ill will towards it. I love this movie.
Yeah, I'm kind of on team.
But I am like so burnt out on it. So I think having that gap and rewatching it for this podcast was a nice like refresher for it.
Yeah, it gave me a reason. I did go with some trepidation, like I said, sort of some of Will's intrinsic negativity towards this movie had bled.
It crept in for me too.
Yeah, through the text thread that I'm like, all right, here we go. But I was like, no, I'm okay with it. Like, I'm not gonna run out and watch it again.
No.
Like anytime soon. It's just more like, oh yeah, I remember this movie being.
That said, I did pre-order my tickets for Napoleon Fest. So.
Yes, I mean that's the thing. I mean, this is definitely going to be
in the same amount of time, the same 20 minutes. You sent me the link for like advertising Napoleon. It's a 20-year anniversary of this film.
Yeah,
you sent me the thing for Napoleon Fest. I saw an Ore-Ida tater tot commercial with John Heder as Napoleon Dynamite 20 minutes before that, which was insane.
It's like, again, we accidentally have like hit the zeitgeist with this particular week.
Yeah, it's one of those movies. It's one of those. It's just a certain moment in time that everybody was on board for. So you know, like I said, I have the reaction I do, but I don't. You know, if somebody likes this movie, hey, they like it. You know, it's really not my cup of tea. But
I'm interested, so I'm gonna throw a segue in here. Right, I'm gonna do you a favor, Will. And we're going to move on from Napoleon Dynamite. But what I do want to move on to is a movie that's very similar. I use that loosely, but what I mean is it's an Idaho-made, very budget, very realized, knows what it wants to do, tells a small story movie that didn't make 46 million, but it made 6.7 million. I want to talk about Smoke Signals, a movie I'd never heard of.
Never.
But when I mentioned that we were doing it, Mrs. was like, "Oh, Smoke Signals, yeah, I remember my dad watching that when we were younger. I remember this being kind of a fun movie." I'm like, "Okay, so you know about this? Got a bit of a Google, had no idea, but is regarded by many now as being the first feature-length movie." Produced, written, directed, starring Native Americans that was seen by a lot of people. So there's very much like a quantifier. It's not the first thing that Native Americans have ever made in movies or whatever. It's the first full feature length, actually released, produced top to bottom, left to right by Native American movies. And it's very similar to Napoleon Dynamite in what I'm saying as they have an idea and they executed it. That's the ending. So what did you think of Smoke Signals, Will?
Oh, I loved it. This is another one I saw. I think I saw it in school. I think a teacher showed it to us.
Wow, so you'd seen it. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, it had been that long since I had seen it. I really did not remember a ton. I remembered the dad. I remembered he was kind of like a horrible person to his son. And I remembered his friend Thomas. I remember that character, but I couldn't really remember his line. But that's kind of all I remembered from it.
Mhm.
And when we were picking movies, I remember seeing that and being like, "Oh, I did like this."
Mhm.
I really haven't seen it since I was a kid, so I really wanted to rewatch it. And rewatching it, I'm like, "Oh yeah, no, I was totally right. I do really like this. I thought it was great."
I enjoyed this movie a
Yeah.
lot.
So
I thought it was
Ryan,
great.
Yeah.
were you like me going in blind?
Yeah, absolutely blind. Yeah.
But you've watched Reservation Dogs,
I
which
did,
haven't
and
I've heard great things about.
and that's what I was saying. Like,
Great
if
show.
I would recommend watching. Yeah, I recommended watching the pilot episode just for this as like a companion piece, because that show is also the first show with an entirely Native American cast and crew writing team, and a lot of the characters, the actors from Smoke Signals were also in this movie. Like the dad, he plays like the weary uncle. I think
Yeah.
Thomas is also like a character in this. It's a fantastic show, and it's very very similar in tone. Like
Mhm.
I think it captures that very well. But this movie was great. I loved it.
It's it's kind of like, we did I think when we were doing, was it North Dakota, when we did that, we had Thunderheart or something like that,
Mhm.
which we did actually give like, a lot of credit for getting into the res.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a unique part of American history and culture today. And it's as a foreigner, someone coming in, and I remember hearing about it, but just like the whole idea of like no, there are reservations. It's like that's their land. Like don't be driving through their land.
Yeah,
Like,
you get the gals that are driving in reverse for some reason. They're like,
yeah, never explained. I was
Yeah.
like, I
No.
was even Googling. I was trying to, is this something I'm supposed to do? What are they doing?
I think it's their car is just so beat up it can only run in reverse. That was my
Yeah.
take on it. But they're like, oh, you're leaving the I forget the name of the town. God.
They're,
But
well, they're
anyway,
the Coeur d'Alene Indian Reservation.
currently, yeah. But they're like, do you have your passports?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? That was great.
Yeah.
Thomas is a truly like maybe I think the most interesting character in this film for me. I love when they're like, he's like, dude, don't tell your stories, and then he does. He like closes his eyes and like leans into. He's also like a narrator, you know.
He gets into his story mode and it's just
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was in a way, I was wondering if Thomas was on the spectrum. Was
Mhm.
one sort of like take that I was getting from this movie. Like I have
be.
experience with the spectrum and stuff like that, and like there were certain sort of moments where I'm just like, is he just taking, that he's a certain way and he's very literal and in certain sort of aspects. But
Yeah.
so I'm like very quickly. So if you haven't seen the movie, it kind of tells an interesting story about two boys, Adam Beach and Evan Adams as Victor and Thomas. And essentially, as the movie starts, Thomas's parents die in a house fire, and as a baby, he's literally thrown through the window. And Victor, Adam Beach's dad, catches him. And so for Thomas, he sees like Victor's dad as this almost like messianic, sort of can do no wrong, has all these incredible stories about him. Whereas for Victor, his reality is, my dad is an alcoholic piece of shit.
Yeah.
That beat me up, and then abandoned me.
It's like a reverse Big Fish.
Yeah. In a way, I mean,
Yeah.
so the twist, of course, comes later. But I mean, I saw the twist from the very beginning, just from the way the dad was acting. Like I was like, all right, he probably started that fire, right?
Yeah.
Like, 'cause he's a bit of an idiot. But like, it's kind of like they go off on a journey, because the dad dies. They go off to pick up the ashes, kind
Yeah.
of situation, and then they meet this interesting character, Susie Song. But like, there at least, as much as I'm like, there's nothing to this movie, there is a little bit to this movie. There is actual plot, whereas Napoleon Dynamite just has things happening.
And yeah, you're so right. What's really cool about this movie is the way the scene transitions, because he's like talking about this memory of his
Yeah.
dad, and it'll cut to like a basketball being passed or rolled, like something like that. And they constantly do it, and it just keeps you so engaged with how they're telling this story. I thought that
Yeah,
was
like
really
little
cool.
him would ride by on the bike, the camera focuses, and then
Yeah.
it'd be like grown up him. Yeah, they were
And
very
he's
good.
wearing the same clothes as a child as he is. Like he's wearing the same kind of red plaid shirt. Like they're wearing the same gear. That's done very well.
Yeah.
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 But I say, because the movie starts, it gives us this kind of like, and I like that because they're just giving a voice to. It's not like they're not giving a voice to the Native Americans. They're not even like giving a voice to the greater problem of being on the res or America. It's no. These just Native Americans who are just going on about their life, and they're a bit funny and a bit quirky. That's all it is. And that's, I think, to the
guy giving the
movie's strength.
traffic report. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So we start
One
off
car
and
goes
it's
by,
like,
it's
do
like
the
light traffic
radio,
today. Yeah,
and it's the
that was
traffic
good.
report, and it's just some guy sitting on top of a Winnebago going, "Oh, I saw a truck go by."
Yeah. The host is like, "Well, I guess nobody's getting to work on time."
Yeah. I was like, this movie does kind of become a road trip movie, though not in the traditional sense. Like, you know, they get on the bus to go to Arizona, which definitely not shot anywhere
as
in Arizona.
three people who have lived in Arizona or currently
I looked at that
Arizona.
bus stop. I'm like, no, that's nowhere.
And then they walk to basically like Queen Creek or something.
Sure.
Insanity. It was like the opening of Sicario, where that movie opens up Chandler, Arizona, and there's like 3 houses in the middle of the desert. And I watched that in a theater in Chandler, Arizona. Everyone in the theater just cracked up. We're like, what? We're here right now. What are you talking about?
Just say Queen Creek. It'd be fine.
Yeah.
It'll work. But I mean, yeah, so yes, it's technically a road trip movie, but the entire movie was shot on location in the Coeur d'Alene Indian Reservation. So they just did a good job of just driving that bus around and then just finding, you know, places in Idaho to sort of step in as Phoenix. But the thing is, the story is taking place kind of like you were saying. We constantly are flashing back. 95% of this movie is the res, and it's just. But this movie is the same thing, like I was saying with Napoleon Dynamite, is it's made its choices. It kind of, like, Thomas is weird. He's got like and I just like the way they talk, like it was so you know
spiritual, like this like ethereal being almost. It's like
it was fascinating. Then you kind of got like Adam Beach, who's just such a handsome guy, you know what I mean? And it's like it was really interesting just putting these two characters together.
There was a point in this film that really took me out of it. There's a scene where he cuts his hair, and for the rest of the movie, he's got the most insane wig on.
Yeah, it's a samurai cop level wig. It's really bad.
I don't understand it because he only cut like a little bit of his hair, but they put
I mean, and I don't want to like, but I've seen in other forms and other movies and television shows, it seems to be like when you're Native, like if your family member has died, that it seems to be that you often see people.
Oh yeah, I get that. I totally get that.
But then I know, but like it's the very next scene, his forehead is now a 3 head. Because
it's a completely that was the only thing that took me out of it, because it's like this incredibly emotional scene where he's basically going to receive his father's ashes with Thomas, and they go and he gets the whole backstory, like the reason why his dad left, and the emotional toll of this story is finally being revealed to you, and you get this moment of brevity where they take the ashes, they take the truck, they start to head back. And he's having this emotional breakdown, but he's wearing the silliest wig I've ever seen. So it like really disconnected me.
I wondered if it was like a pickup or something, because a little bit later in the movie, when he's back on the res, the wig looks better, or it would look different. But you're so right. There is 10 minutes of this movie where I'm just, because Adam Beach has got really nice hair.
Yeah.
And I'm just watching him going, seriously, guys? Like, nobody. It looks like the bit like when Pedro shaved his head, and we get
exactly. It's the same way. Yeah.
Pedro
Thank you for
a better wig.
Yeah. It just it's one thing, like I can look past it because it's a movie, but the fact that you have this incredibly emotional scene with that bolted onto it just kind of took me out of the immersion a little bit.
It's jarring. It's like it very much just, you can't, even if you know nothing about wigs, you see it, you're like, that's a wig.
Yeah.
Like it's just but yeah, it's what it is. You got to kind of Luckily, they have a de-mustache Tom Skerritt to distract you.
I couldn't
Um,
believe it. I was looking, I was like, is that Tommy Scares? I was like,
yeah.
what the heck? Yeah,
Uh,
that whole scene was wild. Like,
Yeah, that whole like it just came sort of late in the movie,
yeah.
and suddenly you've got this sort of this crash, and suddenly you've got like other cops, and then Adam
he's got
Beach's
to
character
run like
running
fucking 20
20 miles.
miles, right?
Yeah,
Oof.
in like boots and stuff. That like yeah, it was kind of like the movie's sort of moving towards the end, and it suddenly threw this in there, but it did give me a moment of like, oh shit, here we go. Like
Yeah.
now we're gonna screw with the natives.
It's
And
the two of them in the car, and once they start arguing, my mind immediately went like, "Uh-oh!" The second he looks off, like takes his eyes off the road or something, and I thought for sure like Thomas was gonna die. Just something. I'm predisposed to thinking about the worst in movies like this.
Mhm.
Something more
Well, because
traumatic.
it's the low hanging fruit of we need to create some drama or make people cry. It's like, all right, cool. Now we're just
Yeah.
like car crash.
And then they cut to Thomas, and he's just like, "Shit, okay."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost completely unfazed, which I think kind of goes to the argument of is he on the spectrum or not, because he doesn't panic ever,
Yeah.
especially in like situations like that. And it's
Is
like,
it a Tyler Durden scenario? Who's to say?
could be. Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie, and there was some like really creative, cool filmmaking like on display.
Mhm.
Like you were talking about the scene transitions, but also I think that Napoleon Dynamite is a good comparison because while there are a lot of vignettes in this, there is still something driving the movie.
They're threaded
And
together, at least.
yeah, and I that goes a long way to helping the movie like feel more cohesive and like,
Sure.
okay, we're actually watching this for a reason.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, um, yeah, I really, really enjoyed that
And
part.
it's touching on some pretty serious stuff.
Mhm.
But does have this element of just like quirkiness and weirdness, like you're saying. So the res is a bit funky, and the girls driving their car backwards, and like I said, you got the funny radio and all this, but then in the middle you've got a boy that hates his dad for good reason, and a boy that loves that boy's dad for another reason, and then you're putting them together, and again putting him on that road trip kind of sort of situation, and it sort of forces Victor to kind of like really get into how he's feeling about his dad. And then when they meet Susie in Phoenix, she has met another version of his dad, a
Mhm.
version of his dad that lives with regret, a version of his dad that like, has gone to and like they've gone on adventures together and how he's tried to help other people. And so it's like Victor is meeting two other versions of his dad, an
Mhm.
imaginary one through Thomas, a
Yeah.
one he never got to experience through Susie, and it's him just trying to deal with that situation. That I'm like, it's really like it's a very touching sort of
It
little like
is.
story.
Because all of the stories his father is telling in Thomas's eyes or excuse me, Victor's eyes are all fabricated. They're all like
Mhm.
embellished. That's why he said like a big fish kind of way. He's like, that's not what happened. It didn't go down like this. He's
Yeah, I
alive.
lost the
Like,
game. I missed the
yeah,
shot.
like that's, but it's an interesting take on that. Like everyone's got this different perception of him, but he's got this core memory that his father was alcoholic and abusive and just non-existent. So he doesn't remember like all of the good things that his dad is like painting this picture of himself to these other characters.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah,
And then, yeah.
it's interesting because it really shows like the dad isn't just one thing. Like he did a lot of horrible things actually, setting fire to a house even though it was accidental, killed two people, but then he saved the kid. He did beat his wife and child. He's not like a good guy, but he did live with regret and did try to do his best to like once he got away
Mm.
make things better. But it's a very complicated
Yep.
character. But I like that he's not just one thing to this movie. He is a
That's
very multifaceted
the
character.
way they do it too is through Victor. It's like you only see the bad through Victor. Like you only see
Mhm.
the abuse and the alcoholism and that. But from every other character, you see this completely other side of who this person at least presented themselves to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mhm.
when Thomas is sitting on the bridge looking out and he's like, because he keeps telling the same story of Victor's dad taking him to go get pancakes or something like that. And this is before the reveal of, why he's like being kind, being like a father figure to him because he inadvertently killed his fucking parents.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I thought for sure he was just going to push him off the bridge. But
plot twist.
Yeah.
Kind of like Homelander, just
Yeah.
Can you fly, Tommy?
Well, you took all the references and just put them all in one. There you go.
You wanted scene transitions? There you go. But I really enjoyed this movie a lot. Like I wasn't expecting to, but I did.
For what? I think I just sort of was respecting. I guess in a different way, but similarly to. I mean, I've always wanted to. I like telling stories and stuff. I've never made a movie. I mean, like I said, I've been in movies and stuff like that. I've been ancillary, but like the idea to have an idea, much like with Will, like, to write a script and then to find a producer and then to go on set and to have it come out is just, it's a passion, right? It's like, it's sacrifice, it's time. And to see these sort of stories, Napoleon Dynamite being one, but here, like with Smoke Signals, adding on top, you've got sort of like a Native American voices, and then getting a theatrical release, and you're watching it, you go, man, it's like, these people have, like anyone, just people that have a story to tell. I just appreciate when you get to see their story told. Yeah, and realize, and this is one of those ones that going, oh man, this is just cool. This movie ever got made.
Yeah, and to see, like, to think without, and I don't know for sure, but it seems like this was made with like zero interference too. It was just he was able to write, produce, and make the story that he wanted to tell with like no compromises. Is what it felt like, except for the wig. That was maybe a studio note. Like, their entire budget, and they're like, shit, what do we do? We're out of money.
Adam Beach said, I am not cutting my hair. Look at my hair. I'm not cutting my hair. It's beautiful. But I also like they kind of like, how sometimes, I mean, even Thunderheart did the same thing, is they sometimes lean into the mystical nature of the people, and not like Thomas has got this kind of like mystical storytelling, and like, because he's got that unique relationship with his grandmother as well. And they're so cute. Like when I saw them together again, that's where I got that whole Spectrum vibe with Thomas and his grandmother, and they look, and she's like, okay, you go. She wants him to go on this adventure.
I remember correctly at the beginning of this film, because it was maybe jarring to me, when he is unceremoniously launched out of a window, and Victor's dad catches him, doesn't he also drop him? He drops him and then picks, like, he doesn't quite catch him. He like fumbles him a little bit.
He softens the landing. It's like he probably would have been a fumble under NFL rules. It wouldn't have been ruled a touchdown. How about that?
It's not. Yeah, I don't think it's quite the. What was it, Kung Pao, where the lady
he caught him on the bounce? Yeah.
It's just like so cute. Bye bye. Rolls down the hill. Like, it's not quite that.
Yeah, it's
but
like
maybe that attributed to. I don't know.
If he'd successfully caught it, it would have spiked the baby. Celebration.
There we go. Jesus. That would have been on brand for him.
Ah, crap! Not again.
Juggling the babies. Yeah.
But like,
back in '82, I could throw a baby a quarter mile.
So I guess what I was like, what about I could throw it over the man. If coach had just put me in fourth, I would have caught that baby.
Oh, we'd have gone state.
So I guess what I was trying to get into is that, like I was sort of mentioning earlier, is that they don't go for the low-hanging fruit in the movie. That while that Thomas he tells these stories, and he closes his eyes and he'll sort of do these things. Yeah. It's not like, put into like a vision quest. It's not, it's just it's just kind of Thomas. He's just the storyteller.
I think you do get that though with how the film is shot. Like you have this kind of ethereal thing through it, like the way the scenes are edited or transition, like you kind of get that mystical aspect to it without leaning so far, into like the vision quests and things like that.
Yeah, it's just because they could have easily done it. Whereas you quite honestly can take, the Native American out of it if you wanted to, and you could set it in a poor part of something, or you know what I mean? It's just like That's why I like, but I did see there was from some people like some almost criticism for it being too not like, so it's full on native, but like everyone's like, yeah, no, but it's kind of just
Down the
also
line. Yeah.
generic. And I'm like, it's not generic. It's just showing that they're
Yeah.
just human beings,
You
with
do get
Right.
that in
problems.
it. You do get that in Reservation Dogs, where he's seeing like his ancient ancestor on a horse is maybe one of the funniest characters in the fucking show, because you get this ancient mystical character, but he's got a very modern dialect to him, and it's fucking hilarious. Strong recommend. It made me want to watch that again. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
But
I
it's like,
think that
go for
that's
it.
what it got kind of tagged for at the time, I think, is like, I think what it is it wasn't fitting into what the stereotype of Native American
yeah,
films
sure.
should be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because it is so, and you have characters in the movie where Thomas starts to go off on his stories. You have characters in the movie that are kind of rolling their eyes like, okay, yeah, we get it, and I think because even within the universe of this movie, it's just like, they're all just normal people. I think there was an expectation at the time, especially like for most of the country, is like, well, this isn't fitting what I think Native American life is, so clearly they didn't, hit the mark or something. I kept thinking of when Roger Ebert was talking about Justin Lin's first film, which now I can't remember the name of for some reason. And there was a lady who was criticizing it for showing like Asian American teens as like, kind of thugs and just kind of like gangsters almost. She's like, it's not a positive depiction of like Asian teenagers. And Roger Ebert standing up being like, why does every movie have to be like representing them as like the perfect members of society? Why can't it just be real and like from their point of view?
Yeah.
Why
Are you
must
talking
every movie? Oh, go ahead.
Better Luck Tomorrow?
That's it.
Okay.
I think that's it. Yes.
It's technically his second movie because he co-directed a movie in 1997 called Shopping for Fangs. But Better Luck Tomorrow is a 2002 American independent crime drama film
Yes.
about Asian American overachievers who become bored with their lives and enter a world of petty crime. Sounds great.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. Oh, yeah.
It is not technically, it is a prequel to the Fast and Furious movies because Han from Fast and Furious is in
that's
this
right.
movie.
Okay,
That's why I've heard about this movie. That's where he came from.
That's where he eats in every scene.
Yeah.
Are you talking about
It's,
Han Solo?
Han Solo, yes.
This is
It is
great.
confirmed to be the same guy.
Okay,
So.
random interesting fact about that movie. Crucial funding for the film came from MC Hammer.
That's
a
Man.
great
MC
random
Hammer?
fact.
I mean, living where I do in Los Angeles, MC Hammer's history is worth looking into. It is not quite what you think it is. I just want to go on record and say, MC Hammer, I love you. I think you're amazing, and I think everything you've done is incredible. I have nothing bad to say about you at all. I just want that on record.
Yeah. Well, he did make the theme to Addams Family Values, so I can't be mad at him.
You can't. You literally do not be mad at him. Do not say anything bad about MC Hammer.
Yeah.
Wow, this sounds like an interesting Google. We'll get to that.
Yep. You just hear some things, when you live here. So.
Oh.
He's a great. Love you, Hammer.
Yeah. He's gonna come to your house and beat you to death with a hammer.
No, that would never happen. You're fantastic. We're just joking here.
Allegedly.
So, like Smoke Signals, I thought was like it was a good watch. Like, but again, all right. Here's my sort of way of putting it. I don't feel like it's gonna be one of those rewatches. It's a movie that I've seen.
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching it. I appreciate that it got made. I really like the way that they approached it. But when I was done with it, I'm like, okay, I've watched that movie. I'm not gonna.
Yeah. But I will recommend it. I
Yes.
think it's a great movie.
I would say watch
absolutely
it.
worth watching. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I agree. It's not like it's no Oppenheimer. For those listening at home, Ollie, before we start recording, this is now his 38th time watching Oppenheimer.
He has it on a loop, like in the house.
I have watched it an embarrassing amount of times. Like it is. I had the day to myself yesterday, and I woke up and for breakfast I watched Oppenheimer and got me to understand. That's what I did. I don't know why, guys. I'm on board the Oppie train.
I like it. It's a good movie, but that's quite a lot to watch a 3-hour movie. I mean,
well, it's free. You know, it's now on Prime. So I watched. All the other times I watched it on Peacock. I've never watched it on Prime before, so I just wanted to see.
Oh, well,
massive
maybe
difference.
It was better.
Yeah. Spatial audio, sign me up.
But this is the thing is, as the guys are pointing out, that, you know, yes, I'm one of those people that likes to go back and watch movies. Like, you know, Ryan's the same, Will's the same.
Absolutely.
It's like you want to watch a movie. It's a happy place. It makes you feel good. This is a movie that's in my list of I've seen it, but probably never gonna watch it again. Kind of.
Movie. I agree. Yeah.
And it's not a criticism of the movie. It's not, you know, it's not like it's a bad movie. It's just it tells a story that you're like, okay.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I mean. I don't mean, I'm not trying to denigrate the movie in any way.
Not at all. Not at all.
You know?
It's just it's an excellent film. I'm so glad that I watched it, and now I can like put it in this like on the shelf of movies I've seen that I can talk about now that like we're doing this podcast, and I can strongly recommend this movie. But yeah, I'm not going out of my way to watch it again anytime soon. Plus, it's not really streaming on anything, right?
No.
Right. No.
Tricky to find.
Yeah,
you have to go to Will's video store to.
I had to watch. That's right. I had to watch it on Pluto TV, which I am never doing again. Like I've watched Tubi. Like Tubi's pretty good. I've watched movies on Tubi where like it'll have pretty good commercial breaks and then they're done. On Pluto TV, I get 5 minutes of movie, 2 minutes of commercials, 5 minutes of movie. I'm like,
it took you 2 Oppenheimers to watch this movie.
Yeah, just absolutely awful. Yeah, that's how I watched. What did we watch last week? I watched something last week.
It was, was it Body? No, was it not the
not History of
Violence
Violence
or something that you watched on Pluto TV? But yeah,
that's no, because I own that one. Yeah,
if I can recommend anything, it's worth. I mean, I was an hour into the movie and I seriously considered getting off and just renting it. Paying just paying $4 to watch the last half an hour because I was getting so angry with that bloody app.
It was picture-in-picture with a random golf match and like a Prilosec ad.
Yes, just oh my god.
Pluto TV is free and it's still a ripoff. How about that?
Yeah,
it's not. Sometimes free is not worth it. Yeah.
It was not. It was definitely not worth it. Though one thing that was worth it was the movie that I chose. Now, and I will admit, like a little bit of trepidation. One, because this movie is almost none of it is shot in Idaho. It is set on Idaho River, but it is shot all over the place.
I got real nervous. We almost had to pivot and pick Wild Wild West.
But as
the river
this
Wild
movie
Wild West
started and then kept going and then kept going, there was a little trepidation because I remember this movie being good. Then I put it on, and as I've rented it, it goes critics 61%, audience like 48%. I go, oh no, but no,
this movie's the shit.
Movie
that's
rules. Let's talk about
Deliverance 2.
This is, I mean, those are Megalopolis numbers right there. So obviously, amazing film.
But yeah, like The River Wild, 1994, Curtis Hanson movie. But it's Meryl Streep, Kevin Bacon, David Strathairn, Joe Mazzello, Benjamin Bratt, John C. Reilly, like stacked cast.
Yep.
Stacked cast. And it's just a classic 90s thriller. They don't kind of make movies like this anymore. But by the end of it, like I was like, this movie rips.
Yeah. It's almost like a Rennie Harlan cliffhanger. Like
yes, thank you.
That 90s action. It's great.
Exactly. It's exactly in the realm of cliffhanger for me of like but actually I would say just a bit more grounded and a bit more real.
Definitely.
Yeah.
This movie
almost killed Meryl Streep.
Yeah, yes it did. And I think like Will, you were the one that broke it down. You were like, yeah, it's like Deliverance but better in every way.
Yeah. It's better Deliverance. Exactly. Yeah.
So Will, you'd never seen this movie?
Never. In fact, when you guys suggested it, I was getting it mixed up with another movie. I was getting it mixed up with
Without a Paddle.
Black Rain.
Exactly. With Black Rain. With The Edge with
I love that movie.
And Anthony Hopkins. I was thinking it was that.
I've never seen
And
it.
then-
That's a great
We-
movie.
We almost did that last
Oh.
year, I think, right?
So good.
Yeah. That's on the
So at
list. for
first
next
I
year.
was like, cool, but then I was like, oh, I have not seen this film, but now I'm glad I did because
That's
this
great.
movie
Yeah.
rules.
I think
Yeah,
I saw
so-
this on Laserdisc. That's how fucking wild this
Ooh.
movie
Well,
is. Yeah.
I told you guys, like,
Nerd.
I saw it in Singapore Airport. So Singapore Airport is one of the best airports in the world, but even in the 90s, it has a movie theater in the airport, in the department.
That's
Like, so once you're in the area and you've got 7 hours between your
Mm,
flights, you're like, oh,
More
sweet.
airports should have this.
No shit. It was
yes.
great. So we
My
watched
God.
the River Wild in a movie theater inside Singapore Airport in the 90s. That's where I
Yeah.
saw this movie, but it's great.
Mhm.
Ryan, you've seen this, right?
Oh yeah, I love
A
this movie.
long time ago.
It's been a very, very long time. Yeah. So much so that I think when I went to rent this movie, I almost wrongly rented the new one because there's one that like came out last year, which is just a straight up remake, called River Wild.
Yeah, there's no
But
the.
no,
Drop the. It's
Yeah. But I fucking I love this movie. I really remember enjoying it again, much like that era of the mid 90s action thrillers of like Cliffhanger, Speed, River Wild. Though this is in a very different tier of those films,
Yeah.
but I fucking love this movie.
I wouldn't call this like an action movie per se. I'd call it a thriller.
Yeah.
Mhm.
sure.
And it's a thriller that it works so well. And I was talking to Mrs. about it, is because for like the last 50 minutes of the movie, they are always 20 seconds away from safety. And it's
Mhm.
like it's one
In
of those things-
reality, like genuinely.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But this it's right on the edge, and they're
Yeah.
constantly they're doing things that, like, oh, you know, when you're watching movies and you get frustrated, like, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do all of these things that you would do?
Yeah.
And like
Mhm.
it just almost works every time, and then
Yeah.
something goes wrong. So you're being edged the entire movie, and it's like but in a way that you're just like, I thought it was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The tension that keeps building up, compounded with the fact of knowing that she's gonna have to go down this dangerous river, which is now closed off, but she's only done it once when she was like 18 or something like that.
18, yeah.
But you get all these drip fed things when she sees the like the sheriff's officer, like the what do you call it?
Yeah,
The camp ranger, the ranger, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, oh, they're so like everything is so close to like getting out of these pickles, and yet it just gets worse and worse. Plus also having Kevin Bacon playing like the unsettling villainous role in this is so good.
So
Great cast in this movie.
Brilliant cast. So let's very quickly back up. So if you don't know the plot of the movie, it tells the story of a Boston couple, which is Meryl Streep and David Strathairn. They're kind of having sort of marital issues. They're just neck deep in a marriage that they've just drifted apart a little bit, and they take one of their kids, Joe Mazzello, the kid from
Jurassic
Park,
Yeah.
and they go on this
Poor kid.
Yeah, they go on this river trip. But at the same time, there's another group on the river. The thing is, there's many groups on the river. That's what I mean. Is like you're always you see other people all the time. But there's Kevin Bacon, John C. Reilly, and another guy who turns out have knocked over this auction, and they're making a subtle getaway down the river. But it all sort of gets to a head where they kind of end up joining together. And like Ryan is saying, the perfect casting of Kevin Bacon as an excellent psychopath.
Mm-hmm.
Like you see, as the movie goes further and further on, it's even a throwaway line from John C. Reilly. He's like, I don't think he feels much of anything about anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just doesn't. He's just a straight up psychopath. And it's it comes so well all the way to the end of the movie. It's brilliantly done. So yeah, and it involves them going down the river. And the great thing that I think elevates it is kind of what elevated when we talked about Deliverance, is very often you can see that's Meryl Streep, that's Kevin Bacon, that's John C. Reilly. It's real people out on the river in the rafts doing these moments, great camera placements on the rafts, great camera placements as they're going by.
Oh yeah.
And it makes you feel that you're, like in these boats on this ride, that there is actual danger.
It's a dangerous movie, yeah, for sure. You get that same feeling with Deliverance. Deliverance canoed, so the River Wild could raft. Like it's It's nuts.
Yeah, but I think one thing about this movie that I was just stunned by is I was like watching it. I'm like, wow, you can't fake this. Like, the only way you can do this is to really put Meryl Streep in a raft on these like rapids.
Mhm.
And so the entire time I'm just like, this they're only kind of acting. This really isn't like, and then to learn like, yeah, disaster almost struck, a few times. I was just like, my God, I can't believe anyone signed on for that. I'm glad they did because the movie's phenomenal. But
like, so what I remember, like, I was young. I mean, I'm only like a 13, 14, I think, when this movie's coming out. But like, what I remember is the big buzz of it was everyone knew Meryl Streep was doing it. Now, it's not like she did every single stunt, but you can see like a lot of it. But they were like, no, she put in the work.
Oh, it's a physical, and she looked stunning in this movie.
Yeah, she's in shape, man. Those great arms and stuff like that. But it's like, that was that thing, that the buzz, that was what got people into the theater. Then instead of it just being kind of like, like Will's saying, is like, to fake it is like, you see the clip from Indiana Jones where they're just bouncing the thing and they're throwing water on them, great, and then you cut away to stunt people and you cut back. Is no, the ability to just straight up,
These
no,
wide
they're not
shots.
faking that. That's look at that, that's Kevin Bacon. And
Mhm.
even he said it, he goes, you can tell when you cut to a stunt person, you can tell. And it's way better when it's not. And I'm like, 100% agree.
It definitely elevates this movie to a different stratosphere for doing it all practically, and having them actually do this stuff for real was really made all the difference. Because if it didn't, like, it would feel schlocky and cheap, and you would get like the Taken 3 style editing where it's like 84 cuts to
right.
It wouldn't
jump over
put
a
on a pair of
fence.
pants.
Yeah. But I love all of the tension in this film. The one thing I think is silly to me is David Strathairn's character, as like the entire like front load of this film is him being cucked by like Kevin Bacon. Like, Meryl Streep's teaching him how to fish, and he's this like meek guy, but then he basically becomes fucking Rambo.
What? It's interesting that you're saying
kind of,
because like, it's more like, well, the thing is, they got together for a reason. And so it comes out in the movie that he's just been working way too hard, way too much, because he's trying to be the person he thinks his missus needs. And she's like, I'm sorry, I've been putting that pressure on. But like, I think he's just a quiet guy. But the thing is, you see it that when Kevin Bacon nearly drowns and he
jumps right
in the water
in,
and then punches him. And like, and that bit where Kevin, I remembered it being creepy. He's like, didn't need to hit me though. And I just love that he goes, yes, I did.
Yeah.
So it's more like he's just, that's what I mean, is like, it's not like he came out of nowhere. It's more like, it's just the real him. And now you're fucking with his wife and child.
I was wondering, like, because they didn't lean into it one way or another. Like, I don't know what his past was, like if they were rafting, like if he was a very active individual. Now he's like I think an architect, right?
Yeah.
Because
I think he runs the Jason Bourne agency.
That's right.
That's what he does.
He does bring his laptop with him, which is insane to me, because at that time period, like having that laptop would cost an insane amount of money to bring it on this casual rafting trip.
Kids, you might not know these days, laptops back in the day weighed 95,000 pounds, and they were filled with all kinds of dangerous explosives that could kill you in an instant. So
I made such noise back then.
Oh yeah,
so loud.
My favorite wrinkle is the fact that Kevin Bacon can't swim. That was such a nice little.
It's a great wrinkle,
right?
It's a great wrinkle, and then they ratchet up the tension by like tying their child to the raft. If you fuck this up, your child's gonna die. And I'm like, that's brutal.
Yeah.
But it's little things like, so with David Strathairn, like, okay, this guy is comfortable being outside. He's also very fit because he runs a lot. But it's
and he scales that mountain.
Yeah. Like, very John Voight from Deliverance again.
He free solos this thing. Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, but I remember my dad liking this movie because I think part of it, my dad was like, yeah, I could do that. I could Strathairn this. But it's like, I think the part that he's quite smart as an architect kind of helps him come up with that plan, the physics plan.
The Rube Goldberg machine.
And then the other part of like, they know sign language because of the
that's cool.
parent. And so they all these little
such
bits,
a great setup.
Yeah, great. It's just they get all these little bits. This is what
you forget about it because it happens like when you meet her dad who's deaf, but it doesn't come back until 45, 50 minutes into the film when they have to
Yeah.
communicate, like him and his dad have to communicate. They also speak sign language. Just I thought that was great.
But the bit that I guess just doesn't compute to me is that the reviews, I'm like, are so wrong. This movie should be like a 90%. Just across
Yeah.
the board.
When did this movie come out?
It was
It's
94.
94. Yeah.
94. I mean, so
There
that
a
was
lot of
the
other
year
stuff going on there.
Didn't sudden death
Jurassic
also
Park
come out?
and
Yeah. I think
mean,
Cliffhanger was also 94, right?
yeah, I think this might have just been a little buried by everything
Things
else
like
that came out in
Forrest
94.
Gump, True Lies,
Yeah.
The Lion King,
Well,
Yeah.
Speed,
Yeah.
Maverick, Schindler's List,
So nothing,
turds.
really.
All turds. Yeah.
Stargate, Ace Ventura, Star Trek Generations, Pulp Fiction.
pretty much
What a great
pretty
year
much
for
a-
movies.
pretty much a
hell.
dud.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dumb
right
and
the whole
Dumber,
year off.
The
Real
Crow,
1999. Yeah.
4 Weddings and a Funeral. Good Lord. The River Wild is 31st. Oh, in front of D2, The Mighty Ducks. Also,
Oh,
Time
wow.
Cop,
Boo.
Disclosure, Beverly Hills Cop.
Wait a
3.
minute. Time Cop needs to be way higher.
Tombstone. Wow, blown away. Oh, and of course, In the Army Now.
Number one, obviously.
But like, oh shit. I mean, that's the thing. 1994 is, I mean, I'm still going, guys. We
Yeah,
got
what a year.
Sister Act 2.
So I think it's just that the bar was up here.
Yeah.
And, and this movie, I really loved it. But yeah, if I'm also like at the
Putting it up
theaters
against that,
and
yeah.
these are all coming out,
Dude,
it might get a little lost in the shuffle.
God, guys, I practically would have lived at the movies in 1994.
But you say that and like
100
look
amazing movies.
the variety of those movies that came out
Mhm.
compared to like the variety of movies we get now.
Yeah.
It's like there will never be another 94 or a 99 or an 87 of movies. Like we're gonna.
I mean,
look,
let's do it. I'm going to go through the top 10 from 10 to 1, but making your point perfectly, Ryan. You got Interview with a Vampire, Mrs. Doubtfire, The Mask, Speed, Clear and Present Danger, The Flintstones, The Santa Claus, True Lies, Forrest Gump, The Lion King. What are the top 10 movies of the last year? You know what I mean? If we get
Oppenheimer.
Thank God for Barbie and Oppenheimer. Thank God, that we've actually like in the last 18
Terrifier
months,
2. Yeah, I know. Sure.
fuck you. We'll know, like, just that's
Oh,
never
man.
gonna happen. You're gonna have to roofie us and then like terrify us. You're gonna have to
Hear me
our
out though. I want to see Art the Clown in like the Criterion closet.
Okay, that might be.
See, now I got you. Yeah.
But
And
like,
he saws
okay.
bone tomahawk in half.
Oh my God. Barry, okay, so once we put it in that, when we look at it through that lens, I now understand why this movie was, because it's not true. Like, but this movie is doing something that very few movies can do well. And like I said, it's that amazing tension. So once we realize that they're together and we've kind of figured out that like David Strathairn, he's the one like, something's off with these guys,
Immediately, yeah.
from the beginning, because there's something wrong with these guys.
Even the kid clocks it because he's wearing like a Lollapalooza hat. Well, the kid is also wearing a Ministry hat, which is fucking awesome. But Kevin Bacon's character is wearing a Lollapalooza hat, and the kid clocks like, but
Jane's Addiction, right?
Yeah, I mean, and he's like, no, I don't think so. I'm like, dude, it's their concert. You should know that.
Yeah.
Right.
Barry Farrell started Lollapalooza.
But like, what I mean is that once the sort of the movie starts, where we've put them sort of together as two boats to begin with, is that the movie does a very clever part of you never feel like it's Deliverance where they're alone on the river. You get these shots where you see other people going by in the background, or you see as they're fishing, like people are just camping over there. And so what that did for me is add to the tension of
for sure.
So close to safety, but like every time it's like, all right, when they decide we're going to ditch them, it goes wrong. Or, today we're going to leave them behind, but the boy goes on the other boat. And you're like, you just like, what did I text you? It's like, yeah, this movie is just shut the fuck up and listen to your parents.
Yeah.
And this is a much more
and it just adds to that tension because you have the tension between the boy and his dad. This is right after they have the campfire scene because they're going on this trip because it's their son's birthday.
Right, and he's missed the last like 3 trips because he's always working. So the son is shit talking the dad a lot.
That's basically Mrs. Doubtfire.
Right. Yes.
But yeah, they give him this Swiss Army knife, and then Kevin Bacon's like, nah, here's $200 in cash. Like, okay. But it creates this friction between the son and his dad, and they finally make it to this outbank like the following day, and him and his wife come up with this plan, like, okay, you're gonna go fish over here. We'll send them over there, quickly hop on the boat, get around, try and get our son into the boat. Also, they have a dog. Like,
Yeah.
that's nuts to me. I
The-
love that dog.
And that kid,
The dog who
kid,
never listens to the dad.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah,
mean,
I love
that's
that.
that kind
But
of
that's part of it.
interesting sort of thing. But then, like, and then the dog and the dad team up. Like I said,
Yeah.
it just all these little
Mhm.
pieces, and I'm like,
great.
it is a well written, well made, well executed movie.
And
Like,
it's crazy to think, like, if this movie didn't have Meryl Streep as the star of it, like, we wouldn't be talking about it.
No.
You know, I mean,
Right.
who, like, if it were remade, it would be like, I don't know who else would be in this movie. Like a Jennifer Lopez, like what?
Yeah.
Given the
Yeah,
time
I know what
period,
you
like
mean. Like, who would you
Yeah.
who would we cast today?
Jessica Alba, like what would
Daisy
be?
Ridley, you know, like, so who's gonna get out and do this? You like for
Yeah.
real. And
Mia Goth.
Yeah.
but like,
I would cast
Sydney Sweeney.
Adam Driver.
Hey!
But he probably like a Dakota Johnson, like
Yeah,
something.
maybe.
I don't know.
Oh,
like,
this
I don't mean
this would be a big Dakota Johnson.
I don't
flick.
mean like who would be actually doing the stunts in this. I'm just saying like who would, what generic actor would they cast
Well, it's not
instead?
generic because Meryl Streep is Meryl Streep. So
I know, that's-
who
yeah.
is an Oscar-nominated actress or winning actress that
Lily Gladstone,
that could? Yes, actually, fucking yes.
Margot Robbie. I don't fucking know. Like,
Lily Gladstone. I would watch that fucking movie.
Judi Dench.
But like,
Ooh.
yeah, right. But like, this has also got Jerry Goldsmith, and like, as soon as the movie started, I'm like, yes, I remember this. I remember this theme. I remember like,
yeah,
there was a movie
talked
last week which was Jerry
Hoosiers.
Goldsmith.
It was
Yeah,
Hoosiers.
It was forgettable.
Mhm.
Just like,
Yeah.
Yep.
you know, I did that. I put the video up and I was talking about it. Everybody in the comments, Hoosiers,
Oh yeah.
greatest sports movie ever made, greatest movie ever. And I'm like, really?
My roommate Abel said that. He's just like, oh yeah, that's one of the best ever. And I'm like,
There
all
was
right.
one comment
Why?
which agreed with us, which was someone said, yeah, but Friday Night Lights is better. And I go, it is
Yeah.
better.
Way better. Yeah. You,
Someone who's 40 years old probably said that.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. It was Ollie's burner account.
Yeah.
I forgot to switch, damn it.
That Texan in England. Dude, your alter ego, dude. You should get on that.
That would be great.
I should do that.
Where you wear a white hat in your one video and a black hat in your other video.
But like, so as this movie, so it like we're saying, ratchets up, and it does it in a great way. That, like I said, we're always half a step away from safety. There's a brilliant bit where, so then the husband, oh my god, so they've got the really clever bit where he uses sign language and gets his son to put the knife in his boot.
Yeah.
Smart, you know, like I said, they're always making smart decisions. And so then they're in the
Right.
tent. They wait until the guy's fallen asleep. He cuts his way out, and it's him just sneaking up on a sleeping John C. Reilly with the gun. And then last second, it's just classic snap, twig snaps. He runs
Yeah.
off,
Yeah.
gun's shot, and then he does
Ah.
a smart thing. Well, Kevin Bacon can't swim, and he goes, yeah,
Right.
into the water, go on the other side of the river. But it just,
And
every time you think they're one step ahead, they're always not quite as ahead as you think. And then he's hiding from them on the cliff, and the tension of him losing his grip.
he's doing the Daryl grab, like
Yeah.
on the fence,
Yeah.
like but that like that the tension of Kevin Bacon not being able to swim and like him holding onto the rocks. He's got the gun, he's got the flashlight, but he can't, like, he's in the shallow part of it and he's really struggling with how the depths of it, and he has to move around because he's around this little the way he's positioned on these rocks to get around to try and shoot his spine, which from that distance is
Yeah.
kind of
I'll
ridiculous.
be amazed if you can hit my leg, mate.
Yeah.
But
But
like,
they
yeah,
also have like they only have so many bullets, which comes to play like later on in the film,
Mhm.
you know.
that's what I mean, is that it's all, they're not making it up as they go along. When they put this together, when they built this movie, when they structured it, they knew what they were doing, and they knew what they wanted to do later on. And so then you get that sort of the great sort of, the movie changes a bit, you know, when you've got Strathen is they think he's dead and he's
Yeah.
not. So now he's got an advantage, but he's on foot. But then he hooks up with the dog, and they're like, all right. So now it's like the amazing journey with, like, you know,
He's
with the dog.
seemingly he's got a line. He's like, all right, because now he's got the dog, and he's like, all right, Maggie, we got to get ahead of them. I'm like, dude, you're like 40 miles away. I don't fucking know how you're on foot. I don't know how
Well,
how
it's
he like
the river must do this, and he's going
Sure.
over the
Yeah,
top. You
yeah,
know
it
what I
would
mean?
have to, but that was the one thing I clocked because he's like he gets up onto the ravine, like overlooking where the raft the boat would be, and
Yeah.
it's just like, yep,
And
there they are.
I was cracking up as well because you know you'd called him like you know you referred to him as the soy boy beta cuck,
Mhm.
and like you know to begin with, but I was like there is a bit where he's running, he's trying to catch up, right, and he goes. It was a throwaway line where what's her character's name? Hang on a second.
The dog?
Gail, and he's
Oh,
like
Gail, yeah.
he's running and he goes for God's sake, Gail, for once come second. And I go, oh man, the guy's a stud. She always comes first. And I was like, it just cracked me up because of your text.
I didn't even clock that. That's great.
I was like, no, dude, this guy takes care of business. Gail always comes
Well,
first.
he did pause to turn and look at the camera and go, or not at all.
Oh, sorry, it was such a random thing that cracked me up because it was such a throwaway line in that context. But so now we've got like a chase on, which is really cool. And then again, like we're saying, all those things come back into play. Okay, he's got a knife. Okay, they use he sets a little message. He basically puts up those things. So now they know the dad's alive. So then, okay, now we're planning an ambush. And so she starts delaying. She makes the guys do it. And then you've got all the extra stuff of, you know, you've got Ranger Benjamin Bratt rocking up. Like the camera gets back, like try to throw it. Like it's just a good fucking movie.
Yeah,
This movie
there's no waste. There's nothing wasted in this movie at all.
Not at all.
When we, it's our favorite thing. Like there's no fat on this movie. It's just tension, tension, tension.
Well, and there's also something so satisfying about watching a movie with characters where they're competent. And like that was my biggest issue with Deliverance is I was like, these guys are just kind of all dumb.
Yeah.
You know, and it was driving me crazy. And I hate it when I see movies. And this is a movie where I know I'm alone in this opinion. I did not like the movie The Mist because everybody in that movie is kind of an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
And not in a believable way, in a way where it's like, well, the movie needs them to be stupid so that monsters can get in.
Huh.
And that drove me insane the entire film. In this movie, I'm like, nobody's Jason Bourne. Nobody's a capable super agent, but everybody's competent and everybody is like legitimately trying something you would actually try if you were in this situation.
She's so believable as this because she used to be a rafting instructor. Like she's familiar with this. She's done it before. Yeah. And even the kid is like, to a certain extent, like he's been around his mom. Like he's got these kind of survival instincts, and so does David Strathairn. It's kind of like The Descent, like these people in over their heads, but they're perfectly capable they're believable in what they're doing, you know?
And another underlying part of the tension as well is as much as she did it when she was 18, she's like, she keeps it. She doesn't just go, all right, I guess we're going to do it. She's like, no, I can't. I can't do this. And like, that's not something that goes away. The tension of you're going to kill my son. He goes, well, you've got no choice. And it's wrenching. It's like, it's really getting at it. And I'm like, it's just so well done. I mean, like another example, like kind of Will was saying is, like I said, they always make the smart decisions. Like, and so it's a really good bit where, again, it doesn't overdo it, but you notice that she clocks that he's reloading. So his gun's open and he throws a shell like casing past her. And then she very subtly just starts like, oh, I need to tighten this thing.
There's a lot of people getting hit with oars and knocked off of boats in this movie. Yeah, it happens a lot.
But that was a good one.
Yeah.
And it's like, and she hits him, and then it's like, oh my God, they're off. And then he just stands up out of the water.
The one shallow part? Oh my God. The calmest part of this insane
It's so clever about just like, you're convinced they've got it all the way. And that doesn't let up until the very, 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 very end, where they have that really clever part. And also I think it's a clever bit of writing from a moral standpoint. Like, you know, the whole idea of she could never know, like she can't just kill this guy in cold blood. And I love it because I sent you the gif from Commando. Right, Matrix? Wrong. It's exactly that plays out.
You're not going to shoot me. Boom, gun.
She does the whole thing, you know, fires off, the bullet doesn't go off. He goes, oh, I thought there was one too. And he's like, all right, kill the son. You know, and she's like, all right, motherfucker, there was a way. Now you get to die. And and the way he dies, like that last part where he's just kind of holding on to and he's, it's it's not overly down or crazy drama. I think it's just,
His fucking brains didn't explode.
yeah.
Right.
I honestly, I kind of wish that I bought the movie. I may still, because this
Yeah.
is definitely one of those movies where I'm like, no, this is a
It's
watch
good.
it,
Yeah.
repeat watch show, and it's like it's a great movie to watch, to I think learn from, to just see
Yeah.
just great scripting, great characterization.
Mhm.
Like Will's saying, no one has to be Jason Bourne. We don't need extended fight scenes. Sometimes it's just the tension, and sometimes it's you versus the rapids. And
Yep.
like it's a very simple premise of a movie that is executed in a way that like it was drowned by some of these bigger, flashier movies.
Yeah.
But I think it's just straight up A for me. Like this
Yeah,
is just,
I love this
yeah.
movie.
if I had made this movie, I would be very proud of it.
Mhm. I'm
Mhm.
curious to like, I can't believe I'm about to say this. I'm curious about how the remake kind of handle. I'm sure for them to even
It's
make
even better, I'll bet.
for them to make a remake of this movie, which is insane to me. Like, yeah, let's take this Meryl Streep river rafting movie from 1994 and remake it for Netflix.
Wow. Okay. So I was like, what do I know? Curtis Hanson. He directed L.A. Confidential.
Oh man,
and
another
8
banger.
Mile as well. But yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So he's so he did L.A. Confidential, Wonder Boys, 8 Mile, In Her Shoes. I'm guessing, yeah, he died in 2016.
Oh.
But yeah, I was like, who is this guy? Like, he's a good director. I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's such a Rennie Harlan movie though, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's
well,
like it's
if
got that
Rennie
feel to it.
Harlan had got a hold of it, if Sylvester Stallone had got
Wrote this
his
movie.
his
Yeah.
little rewritey fingers onto it,
Mhm.
it would have been there would have been an explosion for no fucking reason.
Boat
You know,
hanger.
Instead of it just being there would have been money, more guns.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm glad it wasn't a Rennie Harlan movie. I'm glad
Yeah.
it was this guy.
It was so understated because it's not, you're right, it's not an action-packed movie. It's very much a thriller. And yeah, I again just rewatching it after not seeing it for so long, I still fucking love this movie.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, they say so. It was a $95 million movie, which is not bad. But I remember reading that they pushed it to a fall release because summer was True Lies, because
Yeah.
summer was these
Jurassic
absolutely
Park.
gargantuan movies.
Yeah, you just can't compete.
So they were like, all right, we'll take the hit and sort of bring it out later. But I just think, I mean, when was this movie? 1994, and we're in 2024, guys. This is 30 years old.
It's crazy.
Christ.
They got to stop doing that shit on Twitter, man. It's like,
Yeah,
today's
I know.
it's the
32
20th anniversary
years.
of Napoleon Dynamite. It's
Yeah.
they're like, it's the 20th anniversary of White Chicks. Like, we don't need to celebrate that. Like,
No,
it's not like-
that could be forgotten.
yeah. Or it's the 35th anniversary of Batman, the 89 Batman. something like
Yeah.
that, right.
Mhm.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
like
Stop making me feel old, internet.
yeah, I know it's terrible. Roger Ebert, he was talking about the best elements being cinematography. I will not argue that this was a very good-looking movie.
Definitely.
Yeah.
They definitely lean into that American landscape. My dad, my dad, as yet, he's not gone yet. He's still got time, but he always wanted to, because of this movie, as use it as an example. He's like, that's
Have
something
sex
he's
with Meryl
always wanted
Streep, sure.
to do. Yeah. Who wouldn't? No, it's
Dude, when she
idea-
comes out in that wetsuit, I'm like,
Yeah. No, she's
So-
cool. It's rafting down a river in America. It's to do like a 2-week sort of trip of just exactly this kind of vibe, maybe with less murder.
because of this movie? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, this makes me not want to go near water ever.
No.
Like,
It's that, well, for dad, it's that
Yeah.
that great American landscape,
Definitely,
which
yeah.
and in this case isn't Idaho. I believe it's mostly Montana.
Definitely.
Though we know Idaho is got, because I remember what we
The
had.
Salmon River,
Dante's
right?
Peak
mhm.
was set in wherever it was, Washington, but shot in Idaho.
Yeah.
It's like, so what I'm discovering is that Idaho has like lots of like natural beauty and some interesting
Yeah.
places. It's definitely
It's a diverse landscape for sure.
Yeah.
Compared to like a North Dakota, or South Dakota, like we did. It's a little
I also didn't
very
realize.
rural.
I went looking on the map that you've got a really narrow part of Idaho that goes all the way up to Canada, which was like a very sort of like random. It was a throwaway line from Meryl Streep because she was pretty smart. That she goes, huh?
Yeah.
She when she broke down their plan. So you figured, you rob the place, then spend 5 days on the boat, and then they're already not looking, and you're so close to the Canadian border. I'm like, wow, Meryl Streep, you should be a criminal. You're very
Yeah, you should have robbed the cattle auction. And she has a line. She's like, I always knew someone was gonna rob the cattle auction. And Kevin Bacon's like, what are you talking about? Turn that fucking radio off.
But I'm looking here again. Roger Ebert identified serious flaws in the strength of the plot, remarking, movies like this are so predictable in their overall stories that they win or lose with their detail. And I'm like, no, man. I mean, yeah, it's a movie.
Yeah.
Right? So good guys win, bad guys lose. But I just think even with, like I said, anyone else could take this and make it just generic. And this movie is just, it's not generic, even though it is absolutely just a classic, simple story.
It's not Die Hard on the river, No. I mean, but don't also don't expect any wild and crazy twists out of this. Like it was the son the whole time, was like the real criminal.
I think this kind of goes back to what I was saying about Napoleon Dynamite. Is I think it might be, in this case, maybe a victim of its time, which is you have this era where you have like just banger after banger coming out, and this just probably doesn't stand out too much amongst all those. But here we are 30 years later, we're kind of starved for good. You have studios that are literally making movies so that people can like fold their laundry to them. And when you see something like this that's like insanely well constructed, things pay off, and people are competent, it's like a breath of fresh air. So
it's very underappreciated.
I think it's one of those. It does better nowadays than it probably did back then.
A great indicator for me about a movie is I barely touched my phone, and I waited until a moment so I could text you, man, the thrills. But I didn't want to do it like
you weren't looking at your phone. Every word was spelled wrong. You wrote mandibles.
Why is he texting us German again? But yeah, that's what I mean. It's like I didn't want to stop watching the movie, and I think
it kept me on the edge of my seat the whole time, even though I've seen it before.
It's a banger. Interesting. I'm just seeing this actually. Originally, it was scored by Maurice Jarre, but really shit test screenings. So Jerry Goldsmith was brought in to rescore the film, and it was a banger.
Yep.
So like that goes on, just to show that, you got that sometimes music can just take a movie. I mean, like Rudy as well. Like it's just, you take certain themes and add it to a movie, and then it just becomes iconic. Oh yeah, I did see this actually. Have you guys ever seen the movie Whitewater Summer? 80s movie. I think it's got speaking of Rudy, I think it's got the guy
Sean Astin.
But it's where it's a camping sort of like a Whitewater movie, but where it's a bunch of teenagers and Kevin Bacon is like the 20-year-old that's looking after them, and he's just a dick. He's like a bully to them as well, and because
cool.
So this is like people like, oh, is this technically a sequel to Whitewater Summer? But yeah,
what was that
Kevin Bacon, Sean Astin movie?
What was that? Because there was another movie I was mixing this up with, and I think I might be just totally wrong. Is it Jeff Bridges and one of the guys from Party of Five? It's a White Squall. Is that the movie? I think I'm getting a mixed.
Jeff Bridges River,
but not a raft, and they're on a boat. Like White Squall, they're on like a fishing boat, I think, right?
Oh, were they on a boat? See, that was another one of the movies. Like before I saw this, I was like, "Is that the movie?"
White Squall. You're talking about?
Yeah. I think that's
it. It is a 1996 film. I've never heard of it. Starring Jeff Bridges, Caroline Goodall, John Savage, Scott Wolf.
Scott Wolf. That's what I was trying to think of.
There you
From
go.
Double Dragon, obviously.
That's right. Yeah.
I've never heard of this.
From Go.
I don't think it's good. That was one I remember my grandpa and I going to see, and I don't remember any of it, so I don't think it's that good. But
other random interesting facts. Carrie Fisher was a script doctor on this, apparently. She was notorious for doing sort of stuff. But 25 years after the movie's release, Meryl Streep's daughter married David Strathairn's son.
Yeah, I saw that on the trailer. I was like, holy shit, what?
Gross.
That's illegal. Yeah. They're basically cousins.
I did see Sam Neill was considered, I think, in the Strathairn role. Ray Liotta was considered to be like the John C. Reilly
he'd have to be the Kevin Bacon character. There's no way.
Yeah. Yes. Like, actually, but I think this was a banger. It's like,
yeah.
Like what's the Wild Things. Kevin Bacon as a bad guy in Wild Things.
Yeah.
He was like,
And soon to be in Maxine. Can't fucking wait.
really?
Yes.
I think Kevin Bacon's a treasure.
Yeah.
So yeah, this for me it was a really strong week, but I just loved watching The River Wild so much.
I was gonna say we should do a new thing where we do a new thing with all three movies where we have like the most Idaho movie, but then we also have the most fun to watch, and then throw it in the lava pit.
Yeah.
It's the fuck, marry, kill.
Yes, definitely. So the River Wild fucks.
Yes. 1000%.
Yeah. The River Wild always comes first.
Or not at all.
So the thing is, though, all right. So look, I mean, clearly we've recommended all three of these movies, except for Will, who does not recommend watching Napoleon Dynamite. It exists for what it exists for. I think the most fun watch of them all is by far The River Wild.
Yeah, definitely.
I think a movie, like you said, you want to watch is Smoke Signals. Just watch it, just to see. It's just an interesting voices being heard, and I think it's a good movie. But I'm really like a bit up in the air about how the hell do we pick a winner this week? Because, I mean, look, Napoleon Dynamite, it's off to the races because it's shot all in Idaho. It's all about Idaho. But then Smoke Signals, it's off to the races. It's all Idaho. It's shot all in Idaho. And then you've got The River Wild. Honestly, by far, like I said, fun movie, but I think it's got to go off to the side. It's shot in Montana.
Yeah.
You just get whispers.
Any bloody river in America, it doesn't matter.
I don't even think you get a license plate.
Not the only license plate I spotted was in Smoke Signals, and it was like on that truck, I believe. So
yeah.
So to start with, we have to. Does anyone else disagree? But The River Wild, I think, has to go after.
No, and I even thought, like, even prior to watching this movie, I had to look to make sure the river that they're on this was it the Salmon River?
The Salmon River. We all double checked last minute. We were 10 minutes into the movie.
I was like, oh boy,
Did we make another mistake?
Again, so close to picking Wild Wild West. You're welcome. Yeah, for me, it's definitely a toss-up between Napoleon Dynamite. I even asked my dear friend Kate, who's from Idaho, and as for recommendations, and she's like, I don't know, the only movie I can think of is Napoleon Dynamite. But the idea of her watching Smoke Signals is bewildering to me.
But see, this is what I mean, because it kind of like we got into it earlier, is they are two sides of a very similar coin. They're two independent movies. They're made very cheaply. They use the real location, the real people in that location to keep costs down. They're both indie movies with their own unique voice, and they are dripping in Idaho. Granted, one is the reservation and the other is like a much more sort of white version of Idaho, but that doesn't make one stronger than the other. They're both authentic Idaho stories.
I agree, but I think only one of them had a major cultural impact on the idea of Idaho, and it's unfortunately Napoleon Dynamite.
This is okay, and this you're right, because it does.
I don't want it to be, but I think it is.
I don't want it to be either, but you're right in that they have been, and they are now doing again. I sent you guys a link.
Yeah,
we could have bought tickets
Napoleon
to
Fest.
go to it. Yes, but it happened for about 5 or 6 years, and it's kind of, and that takes me back to Beth Troutman's argument when we were talking about Dirty Dancing. That as much as it's not shot in that area of
they've adopted
America,
it, right?
That town has its own like industry of Dirty Dancing tours, Dirty Dancing Day, Dirty Dancing competitions, and they're doing it with Napoleon Dynamite. It's the dance-offs, it's the best outfits, it's a whole weekend of come to our town and celebrate this movie. Is that what puts it over the top? Like if there was a Smoke Signals Day on the res that people could go to,
and there might be, we don't know.
I haven't seen anything about it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, Will, all right, buddy, come on. What do you think? Because Ryan's made a real good point.
Well, I'm more inclined, if I'm trying to think like what is like the real representation. Like I understand the cultural impact of it, but Napoleon Dynamite also takes place in a kind of a not real world. It's like I was saying before, nobody's really like that. And the fact that it's like a nondescript time period,
Yeah.
Whereas Smoke Signals, that's extremely grounded in reality. There's like kind of the flavorings of like mysticism, but even within the movie, they're like, no, nothing mystic's
Oh,
going
It's a
on.
great
it's an
point.
excellent point, Will.
I don't think the Idaho adds anything to Napoleon Dynamite. Like that could have been in like a Nebraska or any
Utah.
or South Dakota. Yeah, anywhere. Like
Anywhere where
the,
there's farm country.
the Idaho isn't like intrinsically part of that. Isn't a character in that film, even though it maybe is the most Idaho movie. I agree with you. I think the fact that Smoke Signals is grounded in this real part of Idaho with this real culture, even though it is a little bit heightened, is probably more Idaho, so to speak.
So, okay, now this is great. So to me, now we're back to a tie. But okay, so we've got the heightened aspect of Napoleon Dynamite, but like Ryan says, the cultural impact surviving to the point that you're putting stuff off. But
Yeah.
we have the grounded, realistic nature of Smoke Signals, but there is a separate cultural impact of the importance of it being the very first full-length, feature-length, written by, produced by, starring Native Americans, entirely shot on the res in Idaho. It has its own cultural significance in the history of American movie making.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's like,
and all those actors and director still making stuff today. What is John Heater doing?
Yeah,
He's doing tater tot commercials.
well, he's doing voiceover. I saw that. I mean, and a lot of those people. I mean, it's a tough one. It really is. I mean, honestly,
My gut goes to Napoleon Dynamite only because I'd never even heard of Smoke Signals. You know,
yeah.
like,
I mean, this is you. God damn it, you're right. It's just the thing is, it's just, you know what? Yeah, okay. You can't. Well, you can, because we have been, and Will is still trying to argue against the cultural impact.
it's not the better movie. You know, it's not
No.
It's not the more significant, more important film, but I think it is like culturally more
Okay,
Idahoan
let's
film.
say it like this. It certainly is the movie that Idaho itself has chosen.
Yeah.
And that might be at the end of the day.
That's, I think that's where we've
Yeah.
got to land. Even though, so like I said, River Wild, one of the best watches of the week. Smoke
You're
Signals,
fucking out.
it's a great movie. And Napoleon Dynamite, it is what it is. But I feel like Ryan was saying, we're even still quoting it 20 years later, even in the face of everything else that, heightened though it might be, Napoleon Dynamite, guys. Napoleon Dynamite.
I think at the end of the day, yeah.
It's okay. So here we go. Then it's official here at the United States of a Movie podcast that while we had 3 fantastic movies this week, the one movie that honestly has had a cultural impact and still survives to this day inside the state of Idaho, the official movie to represent Idaho here, at least until we do Wild Wild West, is Napoleon Dynamite. Came out, what was it, 2004, you said? John Hader movie, directed by Jared Hess. It is its 20th anniversary basically this week. So congratulations.
And again, not at all why we picked it. We had no fucking idea that it was,
none
that
whatsoever.
it was this.
We really become a professional podcast at some point.
So once again, the white man takes something away.
From the Native Americans. Absolutely.
Man.
Yeah,
hope you feel good, Jared Hess.
Well, we are trying to do America, so it's very authentic.
Ended up being on brand.
Oh no!
Oh man, did we do a hate crime? God damn it!
No,
all right.
Let's put this all on Jared Hess, not on us.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so Idaho is behind us, but there were some other movies that we almost picked, and they're actually like Idaho's not a weak state for some movies.
No.
Other movies that we were sort of circling, apart from Wild Wild West, but there was My Own Private Idaho.
Yeah.
I think I'd never seen them, but always wanted to. I was actually quite excited when it looked like we would be doing that.
Yeah.
The Whale, very recently, has come out. Apparently that's Idaho. Heaven's Gate, I'm fascinated. I just want to do it. Everyone tells me about this movie.
I came close.
Hot Dog the movie.
But
obviously
3.5 hours of Heaven's Gate would have been hilarious. Pale Rider was
Yeah.
and then there was this random movie. Remember, I brought it up. It was the Second Civil War. Was this sort of like bizarre, sort of like satirical black comedy from Joe Dante? It was like an HBO TV movie with Beau Bridges, Phil Hartman, James L. Jones, Dennis Leary, Ron Perlman, James Coburn, and I was like, and it's like it is set. That's what's going on right now. So it is set there. So I'm like, all right, give that a go. Any other movies you guys were thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, you get these dusty old ones that like the movie called Idaho from 1943, that Marilyn Monroe movie Bus Stop, the original Aviator from 1985. But I don't know. I think if we looked through all these films, but had to land on Napoleon Dynamite because people would be coming at us with fucking pitchforks if we didn't.
Yeah, if we didn't bring it up. I mean, there were the couple that I thought would be like funny to pick, like a Wild Wild West and Zorro's Black Whip, which is very terrible. So there were some that I was like, oh, this would be funny, but yeah, Phantasm 3. I mean,
ooh,
there was
the Quest for Peace.
There was a 2013 The To-Do List, which was a Aubrey Clark, the Bill Hader movie. I'm like, all right, I've never heard of that one. So there are other movies for us to jump into. I think though, guys, I think we did pretty well. I'm happy with what we chose this week. I think we gave us a real interesting wide view, and they were three very, very different movies. I thought it was I learned a lot this week. I will tell you that much. There were some good movies, but fellas, we are now coming right down to it. There's only 2 states left. So I'm going to do the magical pen, but it's like it's a 50-50. I might as well just toss a coin. All right. We're going to the state of Montana. I've been waiting for this one. And actually, correct me if I'm wrong, we may actually have a guest for this episode as well. Okay.
Nice.
So that'll be great. So so next week, guys, Montana. Week after that will be our final one, which will be the state of Utah. And once we're done with that, guys, like I said, we are going to sit down. We are going to have a March Madness style bracket. And over 3 weeks, we are going to finally figure out who is the champion, what is the greatest movie, as soon as we figure out which movies actually won. That's something that Ryan has been working on and will have
After looking at all of our winners, I am real nervous as to what's going to be the most America movie in the world.
It's going to be Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh my God.
I just know
I am scared. I look back at our old episode and I'm like, I cannot fucking believe this one.
Actually, you guys are going to pick Major Payne and make me stick with it, aren't you? God damn it.
We can.
Who's to say? We'll have to come up with a criteria to see how, because the bracket's going to be random of all the movies that are being pitted against each other, but we'll have to figure out a criteria for what is it just the better movie? Like,
it's going to be interesting. It's going to be open to interpretation, and you know what? I think we might try and bring some guests in on it as well. That would be quite fun.
Yes.
But yeah, all right, fellas. We're going to head to the state of Montana. We'll see if our guest has some choices for us, because I believe she is from Montana.
She's living there right now. Yep.
I can't wait to do it. This was a great week, like I was saying, guys. Very quickly, as always, thank you to everybody that takes the time to watch us here on YouTube or to listen to us as a podcast. We love doing this. It really is fun for us to do. We've watched almost 160 movies this year, and it is so nice to get into the conversations with you guys as well. Thanks for supporting us. Thanks for coming along and spending your time with us. As always, if you haven't already, subscribe on YouTube, drop a comment as well. Just engage in the conversation. Come and play with us on our Facebook page, which some of you have started doing now, which is always fun, or on our Reddit. You can find me as That Englishman in Texas pretty much everywhere, or as Ollie Pettigrew on Facebook. You can find Will. He's entitled Willennial. He loves to get in and talk about movies. You'll learn a lot about movies you may have never heard about if you follow him on TikTok. Ryan is fantastic at designing stuff. In fact, if you want to commission your own unique movie poster for a movie you love, he is the guy to do it for you. You can find him as Rhino Digital on Threadless, on Etsy, everywhere else. That's RY.
They can only be movies we've done on this podcast, though.
Oh my God. And I can't wait, baby. But Ryan is talking about our World Tour T-shirt that after we finish our season, I can't wait. That's going to be my new favorite.
It's going to go hard.
So from all of us, join us next week as we head to the state of Montana. But from Ryan, from Will, and from me, Ollie Pettigrew, as always, thanks so much for joining us on this episode of the United States of a Movie podcast.